So you want an IT job, but you've noticed employers want Office 365 experience, which is fine. They want 6 years, they want 3 years, or they just want you to be an expert. Why is that? It doesn't matter. We're just going to have to learn it. Let's get to it, guys.
All right, guys, so real quick introduction. My name is Irvin, also known as Kobuman. If you follow my videos, you know who I am. The way I make videos are in the way so that you can actually work your job, meaning that you can do your job as soon as you get hired. And that's exactly what these people are looking for. They want you to sit down at the computer, look at this Microsoft admin panel, and know how to use it. So what does that entail? That means dealing with users, user accounts, probably email accounts and Exchange, and probably dealing with some data recovery here and there. There are a lot of other things I'm going to show you as well, but these videos, I'm going to concentrate on those things that are going to be useful to you, that you need to know when you sit down in front of this program, right? And it's interesting to note that the actual reason why businesses switched to using Office 365, now it's called Microsoft 365, is because they're used to using Microsoft products, and that's fine. Before, you would install Office on your computer, and every computer would have Office installed, and that would be pretty much it. They might pay some money for support, but that's about it, you know. This way, they are switching over to the cloud-based services, which is actually working pretty well, so that way they can charge the licenses per monthly basis for each user. So this is what's happening. Microsoft is trying to make more money, and which is fine. The system is actually pretty good, and this is why businesses are switching over to it. And you'll find out why it's actually really, really cool, although it's, you know, Windows, or I should say browser-based, cloud-based, if you will, right? So anyways, let's get into it. So again, this is the first thing you would see. This is Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So when you sit down on the computer, the employer wants you to be able to work few main things. The first thing is users. You got to be able to go into users, make changes. Once you click on active users, the active users are going to show up. And one thing to keep in mind, that this version of Admin Center, I have been granted access from Microsoft for educational purposes. So this is for teaching students, and I'm grateful for them actually giving me this type of access. Other things we're going to talk about the groups. We're going to talk about groups, but deleted groups here is something that is really cool actually, because you can recover data even if you delete groups. And then shared mailbox, we're going to talk about that. However, when you click show all here, you can see there is a whole lot of different stuff. And the main things we're going to talk about, so it's useful to you as somebody who gets hired and expected to know Office 365, is Azure, Exchange, SharePoint, and Teams. That's in addition of users, right? And that's all, you know, all tied in together, obviously, and we're going to kind of go into it systematically. We're going to explain it. I'm going to explain it to you in such a way where it's easy to understand. That being said, I plan to have at least 2 videos, but you guys, you got to let me know if you want me to keep making these. If you want me to make a 3rd video, 4th, or 5th, you got to let me know that you're interested in this type of stuff, because I have to make time for this type of stuff, which is fine. I love making these videos, but you got to let me know so that way my interest stays there as well. You know what I mean? So I can have the mindset of keep making these. All right, guys. So here we go. We're going to talk about users first because it's the very first thing that we see here. When we click on active users, we can see that all the users that are installed there. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to click add user. All right. So first person we're going to create is Sally, and we're going to give her a last name of Mo. Why not? Then if we hit tab, it's going to automatically populate our display name, which is just a wonderful. All right, guys. So we're going to create a user, which is going to be added into Active Directory. But guys, this is not Active Directory that you might be thinking of if you're thinking of Microsoft servers, like server, I don't know, 2016, right? It's not the same as a domain Active Directory. Now, admittedly, once you create Admin Center, once you create and sign up for Microsoft 365 for your business, you create a domain, or a domain is created to you, so you can add it to your business name or your business website. So if I have cosmicnova.com, I could have created it under cosmicnova.com. But in this case, I just chose it to create a domain on Microsoft itself. So you can see here it says domains right here, and it says cosmicnovo.onmicrosoft.com because I didn't want to associate cosmicnova.com with this account at all because it's for educational purposes. That being said, this is not the same Active Directory that is in your business environment. When you go to work for somebody and you log into your computer, and the login ID and password you use is going to be for Active Directory, domain controller, that's for your business, which most likely will be a server, Microsoft server. Microsoft 365, Office 365, has Active Directory as well, and its own separate domain that just functions separately. Yes, you can log into your computer using Microsoft account, and you could probably make it work somehow with Office 365, but I want you to understand that this Active Directory in Office 365 is separate and different from server Active Directory. Again, I'm not saying you can't make it work together, but this is just how it is. And at least at this point, when you work for somebody, when you go to work for somebody, you log in, you're going to use the main credentials from Active Directory that's separate from this one. Okay, I just want to make sure that this is clear. Moving on, we're going to name her or give her a Sally M as username. Matter of fact, we're going to keep it lowercase because it's easier to remember and easier to type. Automatically here where it's checked, automatically create a password. I'm going to leave that as it is. By default, this is what you get, and that's fine. It depends on the business if they have these requirements, but this is what you want. Require the user to change their password when they first sign in. That's normal. You don't want to know their password. This is a security thing. You want this checked. Send password and email upon completion. You can certainly do so, and then type in the name of whoever. It could be their boss that might want to know. I don't know. It just depends on the business. But for training purposes, because I want to know the real password and I want to show you guys how you can immediately log in once I create this. I'm going to show you this. I'm just going to do this here just for the sake so that I can get actual password at the end right away. Okay, so we can log in as Sally Mo. That's what I'm trying to say. So again, this is how we're going to do it, but this other stuff needs to be checked usually in a business. We're doing this for educational purposes. All right, location, United States. You can change this to whatever, that's fine. Assign a user a product license. So this is very important because Office 365 gives you different licenses depending who it is. If it's a manager, he may have to get a different license. If it's a tech guy, IT guy, one of us guys, then he may have to get a different license. Or if it's just a user, he may get a totally, very limited license, just to use the Office, basically. So this is a educational version of Office Admin Center that Microsoft gave me. So the options I have is A1 for faculty and A1 for students. We're going to assume faculty is on manager level, right? So we're going to select that just for the sake of simplification, right? You can also create a user without a product license, but it's not recommended because they will not have any access. Now, if you're preparing to hire somebody who might get hired, but we're not sure, you can be proactive and create this, but it's really not a big deal. I wouldn't bother. Like I'm just saying is you can create a user without giving them any licenses and just to be proactive, but I wouldn't bother. Anyways, just in general, you want to give them a license. So pick whatever is available and whatever is appropriate. If you don't know, ask. And we're going to expand down here and I'm going to show you what we selected here for faculty. If we click, this is all licenses, right? If you click it here and select for faculty, these are all things that are available, and I can remove or add access to all of these things right here. And that's fine. It's going to look different for a business that you get hired at, and that's fine. If you want to double check with them, that's fine. You can do that. So I'm just going to click next. I feel like that's explanatory. Here we go. Optional settings. You can choose what role you like to assign for the user and fill in additional profile information. So you can assign roles. And if it's just a regular person, you would just leave it at user, no admin center access. However, if you want to give specific access to certain things within admin center access, you can do so. So if you want to make them Exchange administrator, global reader, help desk admin, service, you get what I'm saying. Any of these you can pick. Matter of fact, you can even expand even further down. If you want to assign a collab or collaboration permissions, you can certainly do so. Like if you want them to be groups admin, you can select them to be groups admin only. Exchange administrator, that's fine too for collaboration. Network admin, these will all have different type of roles and different type of permissions. There's so much more guys here, and then you know you can certainly, like, here's an example. You just want to allow them to only change passwords, that's fine too. If it's a help desk guy, just select it so he can only change passwords, that's fine too. It's whatever the rules are, right? For this case, we're just going to leave it user no admin center access. They don't need to have access to any of this stuff. They, even if their manager, doesn't mean that we're going to allow them to do this unless it's later requested. Then we can go back in and change it, right? I mean, this is, here's a profile info. You can type in certain things to populate their, information, and you can certainly do so. Office, location, address, their phone number, I don't know, 555-5555, mobile phones, all of this stuff you can certainly fill in, but you can also fill it in later, and I'm pretty sure users themselves can change this information as well. Okay, so here's what we have. We have Sally Mo, and she's given an login ID, which is an email address in this case, right? It's a login ID, but it's also an email address. It's also your access to everything else that Office 365 allows, or provides, I should say. So if we're happy with all of this, I am. So I'm just gonna click finish adding. So here we are. Now, this is what we have, and we're going to show you how to log in, and we're going to tell you that this is. I'm going to show you that this is instantaneous. Here's a login and here's a password. This is what I wanted to see right away so I can show you guys. So I'm going to copy this, and we're going to go into our Office 365 login. We're going to sign in. By the way, this is somebody else. Sign in with another account. This is just me trying different account, making sure it works. So this is at login.microsoftonline.com, or you can go to office.com and you'll get to this. Notice how this is, just everybody goes to the same website to log in regardless of business. Very interesting. So we're going to log in. Here's our login, and we're going to go back and get her password. At this point, she will get a pop-up to change the password, but since we just want to log in, this is what we're going to do, and this is going to take us to Office 365. This is the front end of what the users see. And, Sally, it says, good morning, Sally. Here's her Word on the left side. She can create new document. Matter of fact, let's do that. Because we're going to test with this stuff. We're going to test one. Let's just do version 1, okay? It's going to automatically save. It's going to automatically save. It says here, right here, it's saved. You can rename the documents if you want, but for the functional purposes, this is what we're going to do here, okay? And now we're going to go back and select a different. We're going to select Outlook, and look, Outlook is going to work immediately. We're going to certainly test this as well. Here's her Outlook, and later on, guys, I'm going to show you how to add these users to have access to shared mailboxes. This is going to be very, very important, and for those reasons, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification down there, because I will definitely show you details. There's a lot to learn here, but we're just going to go from the beginning where it makes sense for everybody, right? And then we're going to do another one. We're going to go Excel just to show you. Here's our Excel, and then I don't know, here's Teams. This is where you would collaborate, doing stuff with other team members and all that, which is great. And as soon as this loads here, we're going to do something else. This is basically a group chat that you start, right? This is what Teams is about. You can, have joint calls and all that stuff. It's Teams, We're gonna work as a team, you know. Yeah, you're gonna do the team. All right, let me create a quick Excel document just to have something to work with for Sally. Test 2, version 1. Guys, you see how I'm putting version 1, version 2 on here? Because there's a lot that we're going to talk about. I'm getting ready this for you guys. A SharePoint. This is where things are making, this is where things are going to change. You can go to your OneDrive and you will see all of your documents in there. See the ones that I created? This is like your backup. You know, like if you have Google Drive, OneDrive is the same thing, you know, with slightly different features, but kind of generally the same. All of your documents that create there will be backed up on your OneDrive. We will have a copy of it, and I'm going to show you how to restore those in case user deletes them and they don't know how to recover them. You can actually recover it for them, and just like that. It's really cool. All right, let's do a one PowerPoint. I'm going to create a blank PowerPoint just to have. Test 3, version 1. Okay. And of course, you can share all of these documents with everyone. This is really cool, guys. I don't want to go off a track because I just wanted to show you how to basically log in as user, create a user, log in as user, and see that, show you access to different things. Okay. So now we got a few documents created. You can see that all of these things work. I'm not going to go through all of them. There's tons of stuff, guys. Look, there's tons of stuff. All these things should be working as long as you've given proper access, which is fine. All right. I'm going to minimize this. And here is back to our profile that we created. After this, we can create a template. And we're going to name it faculty / managers. Because we can use the same template for faculty or managers. It's all up to you if it allows you. If not, then just, just go to the next step or whatever. You don't have to create templates. Depends what your company wants you to do and allows you to do. And then we're going to say template for faculty and managers. Never skip on this type of stuff. It's not hard. Doesn't take a long time to add a description. It's definitely recommended. And then you can say make this template available for other admins who manage users. So if you're a guy that's been granted permission to really manage Microsoft Office 365, you'll be able to do stuff like this. So I'm going to save it as a template. And now next time I can just select the template instead of having to go through everything else and, assign all these licenses. So if another faculty member or manager starts working, I'm just going to use that template, right? And we can add another user, which we can certainly do so. Okay, I'm going to close it here. Just want to show you this is where they are at. They're going to show up. All the active users are going to show up in your main panel, which is great. And if I want to go back and let's say I've messed up something for Sally, I can just click on Sally and here she comes. Look at this. This is amazing, right? We can reset her password here, right here. We can just click reset password. If this person's been fired, we can block her right there. If we want to delete her, we certainly can. But keep in mind, if you delete her too, we can also recover data that's been deleted up to 30 days. So whatever she saved in here, all the documents that she saved in here, they're recoverable even after you delete the user for the next 30 days. They're available there. Okay. And then here's account details. We already did this right here. And there are certain things in here that we're definitely going to talk about. And then we can change things like manage user name and email. We can change it right here if we really want to. We can add an alias if we want to, meaning another version for the same person. And another example right here, it's right there. We can manage roles. We can change those things that I've showed you right here. It's all right here. It's really amazing, really easy to, really easy to change. So let's say we changed our mind. We don't want her to have any access, but we want her to have access to be, I don't know. Let's see here. Show what do we want manager or staff to have access to? Let's see, Teams administrator. Why not? We're gonna make her Teams administrator, so she can administer those group chats and all that stuff, right? That's fine. So It's right here. It's so cool, right? All right, so let's see here. If we click on devices, we can see which devices she has. So with Office 365, you can actually log in even just using your phone, which would be listed here, but you have to set them up for that, and then they can log in just using the phone, check their email, check whatever else, just like you would do like with the Google products. Licensing and apps, here we go. It's right here. It's just a third tab over. It's so simple. If we want to give her a different license, we certainly can. If we change our mind and give her a student one, that's fine too, or multiple ones. That's perfectly fine. And then we got mail tab here. These are mailbox permissions, and then we can assign mailboxes to them to either read or manage permissions. We can create a mailbox for them specifically, and this is where we can do. And we'll definitely get into this in the future videos for sure. Probably in my next video, because this one for introduction is getting really long, and I don't want to be too long. So these are all mail settings that we can change on behalf of the user. So let's say, I don't know, for example, let's say they forgot to change their automatic replies. We can go in here and change it for them. We can turn it on and say, sorry, I'm on vacation. Please contact Bob for any issues. And we're doing this on their behalf. So if they forgot to do this, then we can certainly do this for them. We can make this change, and then we can here send replies only to senders in a mailbox contacts list, or to all senders. So I'm just going to copy pasta for the outside. This is very typical for the inside, and then for the outside organization. So whoever within your business, and if, I don't know, some other company contacts you, you can say, this is just an example. So here, we did it for her. Now, if she doesn't know how to do it, we've done it for her. Or if she forgets to do it, and then suddenly her manager says, hey, the emails, we're not getting any contacts from the customers. Customers are not getting any, they need to get this done. Well, that's because Sally hasn't set this up, right? So we have to make sure that, this is set up for Sally, so that the customer can get a reply saying, hey, contact Bob for any issues, So we're going to turn it off here, because I'm going to show you later on in the next video. I'm going to show you how this works and different mailboxes that we're going to set up. Again, we're going to come back to this here. I just wanted to show you overview of our Sally here, and then OneDrive. We're going to click on OneDrive, and it's going to say whether she has access to it or not, how much she has storage. We can create a link to files. Basically, that lets us create a link that we go to, and when we go to that link, I can see what she has in her account. So if I copy a link address and then open here, and I'm going to open up a new tab, and we're going to copy paste her link, and here it is. I, as an administrator, have a direct link to it. I can see what she has inside, like right now. You know what I mean? So it's really, really cool. And then this can help us actually restore some of the stuff if it's available. The only problem is we can't see her recycle bin. We can't see her. Well, we can see. Well, I guess so. Well, this is how you could, recover her data too. But in case you can't see the recycle bin like this, I'll show you a different way. It just depends on the settings for the organization. That's fine. Okay. And then what else? We can change the storage, how much storage she has. Right now she has, up to 1 gigabyte, 1024 megabytes. So we can change that to, I don't know, that's 5 gigs. Well, let's leave it 5 gigs. Let's give her a lot of storage room, right? So she can store her pictures and videos and whatever she wants. So she has now 5 gigs of sharing, and then we can manage her external sharing, manage data retention. So this is what I talked about, how long we keep her data, after she's been deleted, and we can change this. And then storage, well, this is just the default storage setting. All right, guys, I hope this intro is very easy to follow, and this is just one of the things. We're going to create more users. We're going to work on our exchange in email, see what kind of things we can do. We're going to mess with these shared mailboxes, and I'll show you how to do that. Just as a preview, I'm going to go in here where it says exchange, and we're going to make some things that are really, really, really cool, exciting, and really easy to follow. So I'm just gonna, he wants me to set up a two-step. Yes, you want to do that, but for me, I'm just making this as an educational video, right? For educational purposes. Anyways, here's the Exchange Admin Center, and then a lot of things. We're going to look at Azure Active Directory as well. Matter of fact, can we do that? Let's do that real quick here as part of this because it does tie in with what we created. Once we go in here, we're going to see that user that's in there. All right, so we're going to click users here, and we can see all users here, including Sally Mo. So this is what's supposed to be Active Directory part of it. And in here, we can also make the changes plus much more. It gives you more technical details, including statistics and everything else. But this is Sally that we just created inside of Active Directory. All right, we can see all audits, all sign-ins, all devices. This is something I personally would probably get used to using, but you don't necessarily have to. You can pretty much do everything in here, but if you are a techie guy like me, if you're a nerdy like me, you want to want to learn this stuff as well. And we're definitely going to touch on this and probably starting the next video, and then we're going to roll into Exchange and email part of it. This is part 2 of series. I plan to make the third part as well since I got really good feedback from the first video. And if you want me to keep making those, please let me know in the comments below. Speaking of comments, guys, I see your comments and they are so helpful in the sense that they're motivating me so much. Nothing feels better than and some kind of confirmation that I'm doing a good job with these videos. Alright guys, let's get into it. We're just going to do a quick overview of what we did in the previous video. So we kind of went and explained the navigation and the basic premise of Microsoft 365 and the main things we're going to learn. Now, as I stated previously, we're going to learn things that are exactly needed for the job that requires Office 365 experience. So that being said, we kind of started from the top and we started with active users. We went into active users and we created Sally Mo. After that, we kind of went in and showed how she can log into Office system, meaning that she just goes to office.com just like everybody else that uses Office 365, and showed you how she logs in and how it looks like on the inside. Here is an example. Here she is in the mail system, and if she just expands this, she can access Word, Outlook, Excel, and etc. We went in and made some example documents which we're going to use to troubleshoot. In this video, I'm going to concentrate on Outlook, emails, sending, receiving, creating shared mailboxes, finding lost emails, and just kind of keep expanding further and further. That being said, just to kind of reiterate real quick, we're going to create one more user just for fun of it and then a quick refresher. So if we click, let me go back real quick. If we click add user here, we can add another user, and we're just going to call him Bobson, and it automatically populates display name. Username, we're just going to make it Bob B. We're going to leave it at this, Cosmic Novo. Again, if you want to get in detail explanations of all this, I highly suggest that you watch the previous video. We went in detail, and for this, we're just going to go real quick. We're going to set it up like this, and this will be checked normally like this. Click create a password. And then we're going to leave his location in United States. You can change this to whatever you need. Licenses, we're going to assign a student license to this one. Rules, we're not going to give him any admin privileges. He's just going to be a regular account, so we're not going to give him any of that. And we're just going to click next. Generate automatic generated password, finish. This is just to have another user in there. So this is what we did in our last video. Okay, and then we went and logged in as a user. In this case, we were using Sally Mo, and here she is logged in. So if you just go to office.com and sign in as Sally, you would be inside and you will have access to all of these applications. Again, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneDrive, etc., etc., etc. Okay, Now that we are already in the system, we're just going to make sure that Outlook is selected. We go inside Outlook. We're going to compose a message. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a message. We're going to send it to our friend that we just created, Bob, right? We're just going to type in Bob. Well, he hasn't showed up yet because he's a fresh install. Let's see, can I find him in here? Yeah. By the way, this is actually a good thing that it happened, because every time you create something or update something in the Microsoft 365 center or a panel or any of these subcategories, it will take, a few seconds, maybe up to a minute or so to update. So that's good to know. Let's see. Come on, Bob. I need Bob to show up. Where is Bob? All right. Bob. But that's okay. We can just go back in here and then see what his email address is. It says right here, actually, but I just clicked on his user account and we're just going to copy paste. So it's Bob B at cosmicnova.onmicrosoft.com. Where did there it is. Okay. So we're going to send it to Bob. It still hasn't updated, but he's in there. And we're going to CC Mike Moser, just so that Mike is CC'd, and I'll tell you what the reason for this is because they're working on a project together. So this is going to be a fictitious thing, and we're going to say project update. And the reason I'm doing this because I want to show you how to find lost emails, okay, or emails that are stuck processing or some or whatnot, right? So we're going to say project update. We're going to say hello, Bob. Can you please give us an update on the project we worked on? Thank you, Sally. Okay, so we're going to send this, and here's a situation for you where Bob might come back. He's a new guy, and he just started working for this company, and then Sally says to him, "Hey Bob, I've sent you an email asking for the project update. Have you received it?" Bob's like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't see it. He logs into Office and he can't find it for some reason, right? And that's might happen, even if it's not somebody who's new. But this usually happens to somebody who's new. Things get lost or might not even have processed. Well, let's see what we can see for that. So here we are in the Exchange. By the way, to get to the Exchange, you just click on the Exchange button here. This is just one way in the Admin Center, and that gets you to here. And now we're going to help Bob find his email. Okay. And then for that, we're just going to have to click on Mail Flow, and we're going to do Message Trace. There are multiple ways of getting to the message trace, but this is just one of those. And then we're going to start a trace, meaning we're going to find this email that Bob keeps saying we can't find that, right? And then we know it's going to Bob. Let's see if we can just type in Bob and see if it'll come up. There it is. Bob Bodson finally updated in the system. And or we could have just copy pasted his email address in there. And I'm sorry, this is the recipient is Bob. I apologize. I got a little bit ahead of myself. And then the sender was Sally, right? So we're just going to type in Sally, or we can just copy paste her in here. Alternatively, if you go to recipients and you go to mailboxes, you can see that their information is here. So if you want to get her email address specifically, in case there are multiple Sally Moes or multiple Bobs Bobsons, you can double check to see which one is there, right? So let's go back to the message trace, and then I'm going to fill this out real quick. From Sally to Bob. And when was it sent? Even the system itself has to update a little bit here, so hopefully it shows up right away. I'm just going to say it was sent within last, let's do 12 hours, right? So this is the slider that lets you pick the range, and it goes up to 90 days, which is useful. Chances are somebody who lost something 30 days ago or 90 days ago, it'll be in there, hopefully, right? And the main thing we can do here for the user or customer is to perform this action to see if we can find this email. Okay, now that we have this filled out, we can certainly put in a custom time range if we really wanted to. and we can select a different report type. I want the immediate results, so I'm going to leave it at summary report instant online access. We can also get the enhanced summary report, which is downloadable, has a downloadable CSV file that you can view separately, or even extended, even more detailed report. Right now, I just want the immediate results. I'm just going to hit search. All right. So here is our email that we found right away, and it says project update, and it says here delivered. If we click on it, it'll give us more detailed. It's going to say whether it's received, whether it's processed, or delivered. So there are stages of it, right? Sometimes it would say, I don't know, not delivered, or it's say pending or waiting to be delivered. So these are things that will come up, very useful. And then in case that this is a, like for example, a phishing scam or an email that has virus in it, we can also report this type of message directly, and that's the point of this here. Just to kind of briefly go over what we have here, this gives you the delivery time, right? We already know it's delivered, so the status here says delivered message, and then it says delivery time. It tells you exactly when it was sent. And then it kind of gives you some useful information here where it says if the recipient can't find the message in their inbox, it might be deleted or moved to another folder such as junk email. You know, this is common sense stuff that you would probably ask them to do, ask the user to do, just to make sure that, you know, it's not deleted by accident. Okay. So this is more of a like a verification thing, right? And then we got the message event here. If we expand this here, we can just say, you know, the more detailed time when it was sent, and if we want to keep, you know, expanding on that, we can see even the server name and where it went through, which in this case, it's here is the server name. All right. So if we really want to look at those details, we certainly can. And then if we, let me just message event, if we want to look more information, it gives you the encrypted version of that and from the IP address that was sent to. And the IP address that was sent from, I'm sorry. So here is the IP address, what looks to be IP version 6. So we could do some tracing on this, where the email came from, but this is not something you would necessarily do if you were just have this type of access. You would probably, if it looks suspicious, you would report the message, which would go to the security and compliance part of it. So whoever works in security compliance might be working on this, or it could be you. I don't know. But this is how you report the email if it looks sketchy, fishy, or anything like that. And then here's a form. You just click on it as we did here. We just click the report message. It automatically opens it up. And then it says submit to Microsoft for analysis. In this case, it's not necessarily Microsoft that's going to analyze it, but whoever has access to this, meaning somebody in your company, right? So select the submission type, and it's an email. You can submit other things through the security and compliance of Office 365, which is a really good segue into this, just so you know. And we can certainly come back to this at some point. Again, I can make a lot of videos on this. As long as people keep telling me that it's interesting and useful, I'll keep making more, and everything's free. So we're just going to leave it email because it is an email. Here is a message ID. So this is the basically encryption ID for it, right? So this is what we're going to leave it there. And then, or we can upload the email file if it's anyway. For in this case, it just automatically populated because we went through here. We already found the message. We clicked report and automatically filled that out for you. Guys, I hope I'm not going too fast. There's a lot to go over, so I'm just going to keep going. Okay, and then here you can say choose a recipient who had an issue, and it was Bob. Bob received this email. We know that he complained about it. He said, I didn't receive the email, you know, but we're just going to, you know, pretend like we're reporting it like as if it's a phishing email, because, you know, we got to connect it in such a way so we can keep talking about this useful stuff that we need to know when it comes to Office 365. Now, select a reason for submitting to Microsoft, and it says here should not have been blocked, false positive. So that goes to show that if Bob, for some reason, did not receive this email, if it says here not received, then we can report that the sender, Sally M, is a legit person that works for the company and the email is safe. So it kind of works backwards too. If you want to say that it's okay, then we can select should not have been blocked, and select it like this and say false positive, which in this role-playing scenario we can certainly do, and it would make sense, right? In case Bob didn't get it, it said it failed, chances are that Sally's email over here where she sent it from was blocked, right? So, it's something we can certainly look into, and Exchange Admin Center would definitely tell us that, right? If it didn't go through. Or we're saying that it should have been blocked, and we can report it as phishing, malware, or spam, right? So we're just going to leave it, I don't know, let's say phishing, doesn't matter. So we're going to click submit. You should want to submit, and then once it goes through and it's going to go in, it's going to be reviewed by somebody, whoever is in charge of reviewing these emails, right? It could be you, it could be me, or it could be somebody else employed to specifically work this system, right? This is why I wanted to make as many videos as possible, as long as people are interested, so that you can become an expert at all of these aspects of Office 365, right? I mean, look, there's a lot, so why wouldn't you want to be an expert? And, might as well learn everything. It's not hard, it's all there, and we can certainly work through it together. All right, guys, so now that we have that going, let's prepare our system, our Active Directory, in this case, Office 365 Active Directory specifically, for what we're going to create, and that is a shared mailbox. So I want to do some adjustments. In a sense, we're going to make Sally Moe our manager, and she's going to be a manager of our finance department. And so far, to keep it simple, we have two people working under her. First one is Bob Bobson. Remember, we just hired him. So we're just going to go in here, click on Bob Bobson, and we're going to add a manager, and we're going to select Sally to be his manager, just so all of this makes more sense. And then we're going to also update Mike. We're going to click Add Manager, and we're also going to select Sally. So Sally's got two people working for her, and they work in finance together. The thing is, though, in finance, not only do they deal with finance for the company, but in this, fictional idea, they also get emails from customers. And instead of getting individual emails, they will have a shared email, which they can share with the customer as well, and take turns on working the emails, sort of like working the tickets from the system, so they can take turns helping the customer. This is a good way to make sure that the customers or even users are taken care of regardless to who is working that day, right? So it's one central email. Everybody that's part of that shared email can see those emails come through, and whoever's available can work them, okay? So if we go to Exchange Admin Center, we can create a mailbox. So under recipients, we're going to create a mailbox, a shared mailbox. You can see in here, these are all people that are in here already added. They already have email, but you can see here under recipient type, it says user mailbox. So this is our personal user mailboxes that are in here. So in order to create a shared mailbox, we're going to click Add Shared Mailbox right here. Display name, we're going to call it Financial DPT Mailbox. And we're just going to call it Financial. We're just going to call it Finance. How's that? To make it simple, we're going to select a domain. You can have multiple domains on the server. We're going to leave the alias, same thing as Financial DPT. And we're going to click Create. So in order for all of these people to gain access to this shared mailbox, we have to add them in there and delegate access to them. And I'll show you what that means. It's really simple. All right, it says shared mailbox created successfully. It may take a few minutes before you can add members, which is okay. So the next step here, it gives you right away add users to the mailbox. and some other things here that we don't have to worry about. But the main thing here that we can really do is add users to the mailbox, and we can just click view details here, and it's the same thing as just clicking on our mailbox that we just created. Also notice, and now it says shared mailbox because that's what we really wanted. Okay, we're going to click on it, and now we're going to manage mailbox delegations. This is why I wanted to add it through here instead of after we created a mailbox, because if you start working somewhere, chances are there's a mailbox already created, and you wouldn't necessarily get that screen that I just showed you. So, but if you want to add somebody, which is what you would see as somebody who just started working for a company, this is what you would see. You click on it, and then it's slightly different, although you get to the same place, but it's slightly different way of adding people to have access to this mailbox. Okay, so we're going to give them access, and we're going to click on mailbox permissions, and we're going to select manage mailbox delegations. And here are different rules, or I should say permissions, right? First one, it says read and manage, and you can see there are 0 people, right? And then we have send as. So in order to have the permission to send as the mailbox, as from this mailbox, if you want the permission to send from as this, so if you send an email, you want it to show up coming from here, we need to change that setting. So if we go back, that's what this is about here, send as. Very important if you're going to allow them to reply in those emails. You don't necessarily have to send as, depend on how the business set up, but if you want that ability, you have to add people in there. So first thing first, read and manage. So in order to see the emails, we have to add these people in. Very simple. So we're just going to click add permissions. We're going to add Bob. He's in there. We're going to add Mike. And we're going to add Sally as well, because she's got to manage and basically observe what's going on in this mailbox. Remember, we made her a manager. So she's going to want to have access to this and want to observe what's going on with that mailbox to make sure that customers are taken care of, or any users that want to talk of finance, meaning other people that work in the company. Okay, so they're in there now. If we click cancel here, it's going to update here, loading, and there it is. 3 people added in there to read and manage. Manage meaning, delete, forward, or whatever, And then we got send as. So we're going to allow all 3 people to send as the mailbox. Remember, we talked about that. And then add permission. Same deal. Bob, Mike, and Sally. We're going to have to click save. It's going to take, as we saw previously, it may take a little bit to update because that's just how it is. It has to replicate over the server, over the cloud, whatever you want to call it. Guys, if you're having fun so far and it's easy for you to follow, please click that like button. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Okay, so, we got them in there. They should be able to read and manage and then send as. That's added. These are permissions. These are called permissions. It's very similar in Active Directory when it comes to certain things. But again, that's a different topic. We're going to concentrate on emails and mailboxes in this session. Okay, now they're in there. So now what? How did they access this? What's going on? Okay, so we're going to take the email address from here, and then we're going to send an email to it from my email box, which is from Irvin. Remember, he is not part of this, none of that stuff, but he's going to send it to them. So you can send, in this case, just for the purpose of role playing, I'm going to send it to the finance DPT here. I'm going to make it a subject as budget question. So I'm going to pretend like I'm somebody who's within the company asking about budget, and I'm asking finance department, which, remember, we got Bob, Mike, and Sally in that. So whoever is in that shared part of that shared mailbox should receive this. Do we have a budget to buy new TVs? For budget new TVs, let's just do that. Thanks, Irving. So we're going to send it there. I'm going to go to Sally's mailbox. We're going to go to Sally's mailbox. We're going to go Sally's mailbox. And did she receive it? No. Well, why is that? That's because that shared mailbox is separate from our main inbox or main inbox. So it's separate. There are two different inboxes, right? There are two different. She's got one, her personal one, and then there is a shared one which she hasn't added yet into her Outlook. So the way you add this is you go to folders here, you right click it, and then you select add shared folder. Now, I know this is confusing here because it says folder, but that's because technically speaking, inbox or any of these things in here are folders. It's just that naming scheme is, in my opinion, a little bit bad here. They should have said like mailbox, shared mailbox. That's what I would name it here. That's because this is how you add it, and this is what we're doing. And frankly, it's a little bit confused that it says folder, but it's not. We're adding a mailbox. So we're going to add the mailbox. Now we need to put it in there, and we're going to just copy the name, or I should say the email address for it. We're just going to do that. We're going to click add. And now you can see it just kind of popped in here as kind of a folder. But if we expand it, you can see that this folder is kind of like an inbox, right? And here it is. And if we select on inbox, we can see that my email has come through, and it came for everybody who is part of this finance DPT. And then you can reply to it. You can say reply, and then it's replying to me, right? It's replying to Irvin. But how do we make it so that it doesn't say that it's coming from Sally necessarily? I mean, Sally can reply, and that's fine. You know, if I know Sally personally, this and that. But what if I'm a customer and I don't necessarily know Sally, but you know, you're sending a reply from that mailbox, so it looks like it's coming from that mailbox, not just from Sally. And then the way you do that is simply click on these three dots and select show from. And now you see by default it says from Sally Mo. She's a manager, and that's fine. But if we click from, we can now select to send from the shared mailbox. And then, you know, she's going to say, see, hello Irvin. I will look into it. Thanks, Sally. Right? So now when I send it and go back to my mail inbox, it should come here any second. It's going to be a reply coming from Financial DPT mailbox, because Sally can do that. She can send it directly from the mailbox. So that way, you know, it just makes sense, right? This is just how it's set up. And then if I reply, I can just say, thank you, I appreciate that, send back. And now, you know, in a second here, it's going to show up as another email from Irvin replying right back. All right, come on, refresh. Finance. Come on, give it to me. Give it to me. There it is. Thank you, I appreciate that. So that's the point of these shared mailboxes, so that multiple people can work from it, sort of like a ticketing system, and reply on behalf or send as that mailbox. And it's pretty cool, actually. Some other things related to email are groups, and there are different types of groups. In Microsoft 365, there is a group, email group. These are email groups. Okay, that's called Microsoft 365 and distribution list. I wanted to talk about distribution list, but there is a little bit of there's some kind of an issue with it. I do have one created a few days ago, and that's a good thing because I wanted to show you how to create a distribution list as well. Distribution list is, you know, all of those emails that you see that usually come just with updates. So you would get an email just out of the blue from a distribution list, distribution email that says, team, we are updating the servers tonight. The downtime is going to be this and that, or something like that. But their emails sent in mass quantities to different groups or individual people. Okay, so if I were to compose an email to distro, which everybody who's part of this distro group, meaning all the members of it, which could be other groups or other members, they will all also get an email from me sent to that distro group, whether it's, I don't know, tech support, finance, collections, whatever, but that's what they're for. So if I send an email to this, masses of people will get it, whoever is part of this. I can show you how to create one. It's very simple. Again, there's an issue with it, so I'm going to try again here. So I'm going to click it. I'm going to add group. It doesn't matter if I click distribution list here and then click add group, or leave it at Microsoft 365. It doesn't matter. So I can just click add group, and it gives you options here, right? It's the same thing that happens regardless of which tab I go through. So the first one is Microsoft 365. It's recommended because this is a new version of it, if you will. It allows your team to collaborate by giving them a group email or shared workspace for conversation files and calendars. These are called groups in Outlook. So this shows up as in Outlook if you become a member of it. And that's fine if you're going to create something more than just a distro distribution. So this creates a workspace environment where you can collaborate with your team members. And then distribution creates an email address for a group of people. So that's what I talked about, which I really wanted to create and show you how it's done. But if you see, there's an issue here. I don't know. I don't have time to contact Microsoft about this, so I apologize for that. But the process of making one of these Microsoft 365 ones in here is the same as for the distribution list. So I'm just going to leave it Microsoft just to show you how it's created. And it's very simple. You just, create a name. I'm going to call it Finance Group. And this will eventually show up. Whoever I add in here, it's going to show up in their Outlook as well and create a bunch of different things. It's, we're going to talk about themes and all these collaboration things in future videos too, given that there's enough interest. Okay, so, and I'm going to assign an owner. We already know who our manager is, so we're going to give it to Sally. So she's going to be the owner. On the next page, we're going to add members. We're going to add, as we know, Bob, Mike, who else? Where is our, oh, it's just Bob, Mike, and Sally. Okay. Now I have to add her on here too, because the owner has the ability to make changes, but they also need to be added in there in order to participate, right? In order to participate in the group. So we're going to click next group email. I'm going to call it finance team. Okay. We can leave it public. I would leave it at public so that other teams can contact you just in case. So this is another group email that it's the same thing that we created previously with a shared mailbox. It's simple as that. It's just another shared mailbox that's just for the team, not for, customers or anything like that that we just created. And then add Microsoft Teams to your group. Okay, we're going to do that, and that's fine. I wouldn't usually go this far, but I'm going to do that for future videos. So we're going to come back to this since it's a series. And here it is, Microsoft 365 type. And then we got finance group. That's fine. Owner, Sally Mo, members, these three people. Here's their email. And we're going to create group. Okay. We're going to come back to this in more detail of how this whole thing functions in future videos. But I do want to come back into our distro list as part of, because that was part of my idea for this video. The distro list, since we can't create it, luckily I had made one earlier and I just went ahead and kind of added in there. If we click on it, so again, this is just the email, of contacts of all the people that are part of it. Okay, and then we got members. This is where you would add and remove anybody who wants to be contacted and be part of this group. So let's say some people get fired. So in order to add people to this distro or remove them, we would have to go down here. And again, this is not different. This is different from the shared mailbox. It's not delegation. This is just adding emails of people. It's like a mailing list. So we're going to go down here and select view all and manage members. And we can see that there are 3 people in there. And let's say Irvin replies. Let's say Irvin gets an email from this actual finance group distro. He gets an email and then he's like, hey, guys, I'm not part of this team. Can you remove me, please? And you just go in here and just select me and remove me. And I no longer will get emails whenever emails are sent to this finance group at all, because I'm in IT. I don't need to know this stuff, Yeah. Same thing if you want to add back. You can certainly go back and in there. And here it is. You can add other mailboxes or other members or other groups, if you will. So here's our financial DPT mailbox that we created. This is their shared mailbox they created. So whoever is members of financial DPT, we can also add them in there. And just instead of having to add manually individual people, we can do this. Okay, so it's very cool actually once you kind of figure out how it works. All right, so let's send a test email just to kind of wrap it up. I'm going to send, here's the distro, and now when I send an email to this finance distro, it's going to go to Sally's main inbox. I'm going to compose. I'm going to send to all the people that are part of this group. And I'm going to say website issues. Hello, finance team. Are you experiencing any website issues? Thanks, Irvin, IT support. So whoever is part of this group is now going to get an email. This is a list of people that are part of that, and now Sally is going to get this email in her main inbox, right? Not in Finance DPT, because they're not part of this distro. They're not part of that distro, but her main inbox should get an email here shortly from Irvin asking this. Did I add her in there? Come on. Might be a little bit slow. Now I'm just going to double check that she's a member. Did I add her as a member of that? All right. Members. Manage members. Oh, she's not in there. So we're going to add Sally. Sorry. Okay. Well, I know Bob and Mike got it. She's the owner of this. I'm going to have to redo it. Well, see, this is a good way to kind of troubleshoot this, right? If this comes up an issue and she's like, hey, I didn't get this email. Well, it's because you weren't the member. All right, send. Sent items. And I'm going to forward it again because I'm too lazy. Nah, you know what? I'm not going to be lazy. Let's do it again. I don't care. New message. To finance. Actual finance distro. What did I say it was? Website. Issues. Hello. Finance group. Are you experiencing website loading issues? Sure. Thanks, Irvin, IT support. Send. All right. It's gonna work now, I promise, guys. There it is. Website issues. You know, it's good to make these type of mistakes so that way you guys can see how it's fixed. This is exactly what happens when somebody's not a member and they start to complain and you can't, receive the email like I showed you where you can recover email, but then you're like, well, what's the problem? And then you check the distro and then you're like, oh, okay, well, you're not part of the distro, so that's why you're not getting these emails. So far, we have done 2 videos. This is a 3rd video in series. In the first video, we've covered active users. We've added a bunch of users, learned how to deal with those. In the second video, we talked about groups, shared emails, and creating shared boxes and administering all of that stuff. Everything in detail. If you want to check it out, I will add a playlist pop-up that will come up somewhere on the right top hand corner here. Please watch all of those so that way you're not lost when it comes to this one. If you've watched my videos, thank you so much. I appreciate the support. And now it's time to keep learning more. So today it's going to be about SharePoint, but I will quickly show you how to restore deleted files on behalf of the user. It's very important because it ties in with the SharePoint, and we're going to concentrate on SharePoint more, but this is one of those things that will come up for all the users that have Office 365. So this is one of those common things, and I definitely want to teach you common things that will be useful at the job, right? So this is one of those things. A user calls in this case we have Sally Mo, and this is just her outbox, and I will show her how she looks like in the system as well. And let's just say Sally Mo calls in and she says, I've deleted my Excel document, and here it is. It's just called book, so we're going to delete it here. But you know what, let's do one better. We're just going to go to her OneDrive and kind of give you a better visual of what's going on. So here is Sally's, all of her files, right? This is all of her documents that she has saved. So in this presentation, we're going to delete just this one here, that it's called Book XLS. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and rename it. We're going to name it File We Are Going to Delete. Okay, we're going to rename it that. So now that we have this file created to keep track of us, we're going to delete it intentionally. We're going to select it. We're going to delete it. So let's say Sally accidentally deletes this, right? And it's deleted. And then first thing you can ask her, hey, have you checked the recycle bin? If she says, I don't know what that is, even though it's right here, and it's okay, it happens sometimes, then we can restore it for her on her behalf. So if she goes into recycle bin, let's do F5 here, and it refreshes it, right? You can see that it's there. But then in her situation, maybe it could have been a thing where she just had to refresh it and then she didn't see it. It doesn't matter. We are here to help the customer. We're going to help Sally recover this. So we see that it's a recycle bin, but if you can't help her navigate to this point, then that's fine. She could have also clicked empty recycle bin, which will empty her recycle bin, and then you cannot restore it for her. However, in that case, I will show you what to do. You can still recover it even if she empties her recycle bin. But let's just do this. She deleted it on accident, and then now it's in recycle bin, but she doesn't know how to do it. That's okay. I'm going to say, Sally, it's okay. We're going to do it for you. And here's Sally here in our active users. If you don't know how to get to this, you go to Microsoft 365 Admin Center, select users, let this expand, select active users, and all I did here was type in Sally Mo, or you can just simply pick her from here, or you can just search for her. It doesn't matter. We're going to select Sally here, and then in order to recover anything that's in her OneDrive, all of our documents are going to be in OneDrive, stored in OneDrive, unless it's shared documents that we're going to talk about as part of this video on SharePoint. All of her personal documents are going to be in OneDrive for her personally. And then to recover it for her, or to basically see the recycle bin on her behalf, right, we're going to do it for her. We're going to click on OneDrive here, and where it says get access to files, we're going to create a link that will take us to her OneDrive that we have access to on her behalf. So, and if we click create link to files, it's going to create a website link, and it says here create a link to view and edit Sally Mo's OneDrive files, right? Self-explanatory. So we're going to click create a link. So this may take a little bit to process, and sometimes not, but in this case, we're just going to just click on it, or you can copy paste this link somewhere else. But you notice this is just a, HTTPS. I mean, it's a secure link to the SharePoint OneDrive that's web-based, right? Cloud-based, web-based, whatever you want to call it. So to see it, what's going on in her OneDrive, we're going to click on this link or copy paste it. And here is exactly what she sees, right? Right? This is exactly where she is. She has that one document, they got one presentation, and we see that as well. Now, normally we would have a link to a recycle bin here where we would click it, but in some situations, and this is important to know, that recycle bin may not show up like this, but it's supposed to show up here, that there's another way to go about this. And for this, here's the segue, guys. We have to go to the SharePoint Admin Center. Okay, here's our home for SharePoint, and this is where we're going to access all of her stuff, right? So in order to get to it, we have to click on, let me just re-minimize this. We're going to click on more features here, right? This is going to be there. It's not going to be in these menus for some reason, but it's definitely going to be under more features. And if we look to the right, it says here user profiles. So we're going to click on open. And what this is going to show us is something very similar that you see in regular Active Directory for our Windows server. Very, very similar looking. And for those reasons, we're going to just use common sense here, right? So if you're in here and then you are going to make changes for the user, well, what is it that you need to do? If you look, the first thing it says manage user properties. Nah, that's not really it. Those are like permissions and stuff. Manage user profiles. So what are these things that people are logging into, right? Think about this. And I want to teach you in this way. This is person's profiles, and especially considering that it's all web-based or cloud-based. So everybody that's part of this Microsoft 365 has a profile, right? And these are their profiles, and we're going to manage it just like we tried to manage it through here, but it failed, and that's okay. We're just going to do it here, but more in a technical way where we have way more access to it. So we're going to do the same thing here that we did with the GUI, but I mean, although this is a GUI too, we're going to do the same thing here, just different ways. We're going to click Manage User Profiles, right? We're going to manage Sally's profile. Okay, and then we're going to search for Sally here, Sally Mo. I typed in Salmo. Let's see if anything comes up. Sure enough, you can make a mistake, and that's okay. And here's our Sally. So we're going to click on her, and we're going to expand here. We're going to click on the little drop-down arrow for Sally. You see here, that's her ID and all of that preferred. And we're going to do a little drop-down arrow, and then we're going to manage. Again, we're going to manage personal site here. And I know there's a lot of steps here, but just keep thinking manage, manage, manage. You know, because you have full management control, if you will, of Office or Microsoft 365 Center. So we're going to keep managing and managing. And here's our specific settings to her OneDrive. It says here OneDrive, and because OneDrive stores everything here that's in for Sally, right? And although we clicked manage personal site, her personal site, if she has one, is going to be all stored on OneDrive. Everything is in OneDrive. Okay, and now we can see the only indicator here that we have is that it's Sally's, where it says here about Sally Mo. We know it's for her for sure. No other things indicate that this is for Sally, but we know it is. So we're going to look for recycle bin, and then here it is, site collection administration, and under that there is recycle bin. Okay, now we have access to her recycle bin. We're going to click on it. And here's our file, guys. We can simply select it now, and then we can click restore, and then we can immediately go back to her back to her My Files in OneDrive, and without even refreshing, it came back up. Okay, here it is. We restored it for her just like that. Very easy to follow, right? So let's see if there's anything now in recycle bin. There it is. There's still a copy of it that didn't refresh. And that's when we hit F5 and it kind of restored it back up. And that's fine. Now let's go ahead and delete it again. But we're going to delete it even further. We're going to permanently delete it, quote unquote, permanently delete it from her recycle bin. But that's not what's going on. So we're going to delete it again. Yes. And then let's say she goes in recycle bin. And let me just do F5 here again. Come on. Come on. Come on. We just did it. Come on. It's so funny because it was instant over there, but in some cases it's not wanting to be instant. That's fine. Let me see if I go back here. I know I deleted it, guys. Come on. Delete. Oh, this is what was going on. I messed up. It was already open somewhere else. That's fine. Okay, now it's deleted. That's my fault. I fully accept the fault for that. All right, F5. Now there it is. So let's see. She clicks empty recycle bin because she wants to make space on her OneDrive, right? You have to empty recycle bin to make that space. So she does this. And then now what? Now it's gone. And then she calls again. And then you're like, okay, no problem. I'm going to look at your, I'm going to look at your recycle bin. So we go back here. Here we are again about Sally Moe. We're administering her site, as in, her OneDrive. We're going to click on recycle bin. And there's not going to be anything in there because she permanently deleted it, quote unquote. It's not permanently deleted, but she emptied her recycle bin. It's not there. Luckily, we can still help her recover this because there's always going to be a copy of it. And that is in second stage recycle bin, which is under her drive. So we're going to have to navigate her through this, unfortunately, or take control of her computer and just do it for her, with some kind of remote desktop software. And so, self-explanatory kind of, it's going to be second stage inception recycle bin. And here it is. Now, if we empty this one, then it will be permanent. You can see it says, this will be, permanent. Well, it will tell me, but that's okay. We're not going to do that because I don't feel like creating this again to prove the point. So we're going to restore it. So when we click the restore, now it's no longer in second stage recycle bin or nor in the regular recycle bin. So if we go back to our files, we've restored it, and there it is. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I like it. I like it. Okie dokie. So now we're going to go and talk about SharePoint. Now let's look at the SharePoint from a user's point of view. SharePoint, as in SharePoint for the user, is going to be different for you as an admin, unless your group has a specific one. Here is finance group. Now, if you remember, we went and in the previous video, and again, this is another reason why you should be, checking out the other videos. Let me just get organized here real quick. We're going to go to our Exchange. Now everything ties in. This is why I keep saying you need to watch all the videos, and especially the one video before this one. We created a group, they call Microsoft 365 group for finance group. And finance group, people that are part of that group includes Sally and some other people that work for her. So if we click on finance group in our admin Exchange, we can see all the members that are in there. So if I click view and all manage, that Sally is in there, she's the owner. But if we click view and manage members, we can see that Sally is also a member there. So she can participate in what they call a SharePoint. In this case, it's this website. It creates a website specifically for finance. It's called Finance Group. And then we got Finance Group here. right? It's the same thing. It creates this for them, which allows them to not only have a shared email, but they also have shared website in which they can collaborate. So think of it as a just a website for them, their own web page. Think of like a Discord group, more so like that, or I don't know what other social platform, maybe like a I don't know Facebook members page or something like that. But you'd have to be a member to participate, create things, add things, and be part of the conversation, share net documents, and everything else that you're collaborating with. And as you can see here, there is finance group mailbox that's created there. She can also get to it and any of these members that are in here. So let's really quick go through all the things that are inside of their SharePoint. So they can create different things based off what their preferences are, what their job is, and this and that. And you can see there are some things in here that they can just kind of show up, and these are things that they can create individually. So if they click right immediately on new here, they can create a new list, document library, page, news post, news link, plan, or app. So these are all things that users can do, which is fine. You know, this is something you should definitely learn because it's good to know to help you troubleshoot things. And then all these people that work in this environment can see these things that are created. So if we, so for example, click page, it's like creating a website blog page or a post, right? Let's say you're writing some kind of article that's related to what is going on with your environment or your business and work environment. So this is one of those things you can certainly do. Now, coming down from the left, if you click on conversations, you can see what's going on in your shared mailbox. Here's a finance mailbox that I talked about. This is people that are part of this can view anything that's inside of it, reply, message each other, or just use it for business purposes for their customers. If we click, let me go back here. If we click on the next thing down, which is documents, you can see that we can upload and add documents, and there is a general folder. So imagine uploading this to actual web page, which is fine. So if I click new and create a new Word document, it's going to be stored exactly in our shared point. And I'm going to say plan for tomorrow's session. And I'm going to name it. So if you just click up here, I'm just going to say plan for tomorrow's session. Now, it didn't like the apostrophe that I used. Plan for tomorrow's session. So it didn't like the apostrophe that I used. Whatever. That's fine. So automatically saves all of these because it's all web-based. And if we go back to the SharePoint under documents, we can see that document is there. She can certainly upload any files or folders or templates, and she can, whatever it is that you want to do, that she wants to do. So this is kind of self-explanatory. Other people can see it. You can delegate who can see it, do what to it. She can certainly do that. Details, more, this and that. But then we're going to just keep moving. And then it says shared with us. This is something that could be shared from different groups or different people. And these are the old things that will show up here when it comes to files and folders. Notebook. This is going to open up OneNote. This is another shared thing that you can do. And I'm going to say, let's say we're working on something together with team. And we're going to say plan for tomorrow's session. And this is our note, sort of like a sticky note, but it's online, right? It's like a sticky note, but it's online. Everybody can see it and edit it as long as you give them permissions. By default, whoever is a member should be able to make any changes. So we're going to say, for one, we're going to say meeting, right? And that's fine. Now, when we close it, when we go back to our SharePoint, and anybody else who goes in, let me see if am I part of that thing? I'm going to say here, SharePoint, finance. So this is me logged in. And if I go back in, this is under my name, under my login. I can see that she created this note in here that I can edit as well. You know, it's pretty cool, pretty self-explanatory. We're going to keep moving it towards the next thing, and that is pages here. Here is our home page. This is what it looks like. If we click on this, we can see this is our home page. We can add more pages if we want, and sure, what the heck, let's do this. We're going to create a site page, and we're going to call it sessions. We're going to call it work sessions, so that way Sally as manager, right? Remember, we created her and added her as a manager. She can keep this organized so that her people can see whenever she's gonna have these planned sessions. And then we're going to click new, and then this is kind of like WordPress, very similar to WordPress. And then you can add different things, just create a web page. It's really cool. It goes from just plain documents to buttons to videos, images, and dividers. And then we're going to do this. We're going to say meeting, you know, just to have something. And we're going to click publish, you know, whenever a person's ready, and then they can click publish. You can get a link of it and share it with your friends, but you know, if we go back to pages, it should show up, and here it is, work sessions. If we go to home page, it should come up here as well somewhere. There it is. So here is our sessions from Sally that she created a web page. It's called, you know, work dash sessions, and anybody can go in and, you know, leave a comment. And matter of fact, let me do that just to show you how it works. SharePoint, go finance group here. Here is Sally's page. Come on, take me to her page. Take me to her page. I'm going to say, great job, Sally. I'm going to go post. You see Irvin says, great job, Sally. I'm going to like my own thing because why not? I always like my own videos, guys. By the way, if you got a second, please like my video. I appreciate it. And then, you know, if Sally goes back to it, she can see that, you know, somebody commented. You know, where is it? Right here. So you can see that Irvin said, good job. Okay. So next thing is site content. This is basically everything that's installed on the website. So this is kind of like, I don't want to say it's back end because you can see it here on the front end. It's just part of the thing, but you can see all the documents that are in there. Remember the thing we created and put in there, and this is all going to have all those documents that, you know, they're just part of our website or our SharePoint group. It's not super easy to necessarily navigate, but that's fine. From point of view of IT support, these are things that we need to know, including here. Here is recycle bin, right? So if there's anything deleted from the finance group, we can see it in the recycle bin. So matter of fact, let's try this. We're going to click on site contents here. We're going to try to delete something, right? We're just going to delete this thing that we've created, and we're going to delete it like this, delete. And if they need help recovering this, we can just say go to recycle bin and then go and restore it. Just like that. And that's SharePoint for you guys. I think I covered most of the things that we need to worry about when it comes to SharePoint. So as an admin, if you go to SharePoint and see what's going on, the first thing that comes up here is sites, right? It says here sites. If we expand and click active sites, we can see that our financial group is there. And if you just want the quick link to it, You can just simply just click here and it will take you to that website without having you to go through all of that and trying to figure out, well, what is it? Well, it's right there. And you can see that it's just kind of set up in such a way that URL is whatever, 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 and then it says sites finance theme, whatever, whatever. Before that is, the main name that we're using for this, which was Cosmic Novo at SharePoint.com, right? So when it comes to administrative part of it, at this point, you can see just activity. You can see the different permissions here that you can change them for the site owner and site members. So if you expand them, you can add more. You can add additional admins in here. It's all right here. You can change the policies. You can block external sharing, whether you want other people to see this. So you can go in and say, new people and existing guests, can go in and see what's going on in this website. You don't necessarily want anyone to have access to this, for security purposes, or you can really restrict it so it's only people in your organization, no external sharing allowed, which this is what we're going to do here and say save. All right, guys. I hope this video was useful and really easy to follow. I can create more, but you guys gotta let me know and give me an idea of what to talk about next. I could talk about Teams that as a next thing. We can talk about more about Azure Active Directory for Microsoft Office 365. We can talk about security and compliance. We can talk about roles. We can talk about different resources, rooms and equipment, billing. Well, no, that's just for, that's not something we have to worry about as tech support. And what else? We can look at health, service health, message center. The Teams has lots of cool things. Originally, I was going to talk about this as well in the same video, but if we go to it, there's actually a lot of interesting administrating things that I really want to talk about. And for those reasons, I want to make a separate video because it's really cool. All right, so here we are at Microsoft 365 Admin Center. The topics from previous videos, which you really should watch because everything ties into this one, is that we talked about active users, we talked about groups, we talked about Exchange administration, and we talked about SharePoint. And today we're going to concentrate on Azure Active Directory. We did touch on compliance and security a little bit, and that's fine. Today we're going to talk about Azure Active Directory. The reason is the way in my mind everything is tying in together in that order. Teams will probably be the next video given that there's enough interest, but for now we're going to talk about Azure Active Directory. So if we click on Azure Active Directory, well, what is it? Azure Active Directory, it personally reminds me of Windows Server Active Directory in a sense where you can look at users, groups, assign different roles, administrator, control devices, all kinds of different things, but even more so at some kind of a new age level, if you will, because Azure Portal is just way better than just Windows Server Administration, in my opinion, and actually easier to learn. So we're going to certainly cover that. So if we click here on Azure Active Directory, here are a bunch of things that come up. And one of the first things that we're going to cover is users. And again, you see how everything ties in from the previous videos that we made. And so this is how, in my mind, everything makes sense. We talked about a few specific users, but mostly concentrated on Sally Moe. She is our manager for the financial department. So again, I don't mean to sound repetitive here, but if you don't know what's going on here, watch the previous videos. I will certainly link them in the top right corner where you can see the playlist. All right. So here's our Sally Moe, and we know from previous videos that she's our manager and she controls some aspects of her department or her administration, if you will, or administration of her department or her sector within the company, right? If that makes sense to you. And the department that she works is financial department. So she controls some aspect of it because she's a manager. So if we select her like this, we can see that we can change a bunch of different things. And compared to Microsoft 365 uh, admin panel, which is, very basic, and it's great in my opinion if you want to make quick changes. But here in Azure Active Directory, you can see there is a lot more that we can change in a more technical level. So this is also very important to learn this, and we're certainly tying in from this because we already learned all of this, and now we're going to learn more advanced version of that. So let's backtrack just real quick here. So Azure Active Directory, click here, right? And we're going to learn things that you will be doing when you get hired as Office 365. So we're going to touch on those things, and later on we can expand on advanced stuff. But for now, we need to just get you a basic experience so that way you can use Office 365, not necessarily set up everything and administer everything. We just need to give you knowledge, basic knowledge, if you will, in a sense where you know how to use it, right? When we click on this, it gives us, different options. We're going to concentrate on those. So users, groups, we're going to concentrate on roles, and maybe devices and licensing. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. We're just going to go down the line and see what makes sense. So again, we click on users, and then we got Sally Mo. We're going to click on her, and then we're going to make some changes. So what is the first thing that you see here? On top, we can see edit. We're going to click on edit, and what does that do? What does that do for us? Well, it lets us edit everything from her picture. Matter of fact, let's change her picture real quick. So I don't know, I'm just gonna pick a random thing. Oh, that's cute, whatever. I think I used that in my previous video. Doesn't matter. Anyways, you get the idea. We can change her picture. Anyways, if she wants to change it, she can, but there's a limit to 100 KB, which is a tiny icon picture, whatever. It doesn't matter. We're not gonna save it anyways. So we clicked on edit, and then the next thing we can do, aside from changing her picture, which is kind of silly, but you never know when Sally might be like, hey, I really need to change my picture. I don't know how to. We can do it for her if she really wants to. It doesn't matter. And then we can see user sign-ins. If we click on this, it'll give us the statistics when she logged in at any point and from where and to what especially. And here it is. She logged in what looks to be today on the 25th is when I'm recording this, and you can see that that's her IP address, and there is another IP address here. So notice something here. This one comes up as different IP address. Why is that? And she logged into just Microsoft Office. So this is something to kind of keep an eye on if you suspect some kind of weird activity. You can see that she has a login from the same IP address, and you could also see whenever she failed to log in as well. And then suddenly there is this one here. But what is that? And then the reason most likely is that she's using multiple devices, and I'll just tell you that off the bat instead of trying to beat around the bush or anything like that. And you can see it shows actually different location here. It says Chicago, Illinois instead of town and country. So most likely she logged in from a different device, and we'll definitely talk about that because you can have multiple devices, up to 50 devices that you can log into with Microsoft Office account. Okay, and and that's pretty much that. It gives you kind of overview of what she has been doing. Here's her name, and she comes up in and this is how she shows up in Microsoft as Sally Mo. This is her display name, not like her what is in here. This is her actual first name and her actual last name. This is just what displays on the website, as or in part of any other groups or whatever that she's a member of. And here is her user principal name, which is just her, login ID or, if you will, her email address as well. And type that she is a member, or we can, change her to guest if she's a guest, but we know she's a member because she's a manager. We're going to leave it at that. Here's our object ID. This is encrypted version of our object ID. This is not something you would want to display on, like public things like I'm showing right now, but I don't care because I'm not worried about somebody trying to hack into this because it's, this is just for teaching purposes. And then issuer, and that is Cosmic Novel at a on Microsoft.com, meaning this is the domain or the owner, if you will. But in this case, it's talking about a domain. Who is the issuer? And it's this domain. Because every time you create Microsoft, or when you sign up or create new version of Office 365 for the company, it asks you for your domain, and you just type in the name, what the domain name is, or you can assign it. You can have your own. I can literally have cosmicnova.com if I really wanted to, but this time I just typed in the name of my company and they assigned me their own domain that's on Microsoft.com. Literally says on Microsoft.com, right? And says managed B2B collaboration. I'm not going to talk about this. Is not something you necessarily need to know. I mean, we can click on this and you can see that this is not something that we can make changes to, but it deals with managing collaboration status, meaning business to business collaborations. And for this is something you would have to set up. This is something advanced. So don't worry about that for now. And then under job info, this is just basic. We gave her a title of manager, and I put down when we created this as an EDU, as an education department, but we now know that she works in finance. Right? We have confirmed this. The reason I had EDU is because basically all these videos that I'm making is everything is off the top of my head. There's no script, guys. It's just me sharing my knowledge, literally out of my mind. And then we can see who her manager is, and she doesn't have that set up. Well, we're going to change that. We're just going to click on that, and we're going to make Irvin her manager. We're going to make the change like that. And then her company name, if she's a visitor, we can put this in, and then we can put her employee ID if she has one. So we're going to make her employee number 0002. Let's make her that. And then we can block sign-ins, meaning if we want to block her account from being signed into, we can simply select that, yes or no. We're going to leave it at no because we don't want to block her. We're still working on this. Usage location. This is basically to tell us where the person is from, just in case there are firewalls in place. This is my suspect. This is what I suspect to be the case. Otherwise, this is just semantic, as in like, where is this person from? But I have a feeling this has something to do with firewalls, where if person is logging in from, I don't know, Uruguay, we want to know this, so that way when we look at those logs, we can see that. Remember the first thing we looked at, we can see that IP address is coming from Uruguay. So this is why this is something you might want to change, or make sure that person is, I don't know, she might be traveling. Let's say she's traveling to Uruguay. You may want to change this just so you can have it so she doesn't get blocked, right? So she doesn't get blocked. Simple as that. And we can type in her address just to kind of fill it in. And this is, as Office 365, this might be your job whenever you get hired. So we're going to type in, we're going to say 85990. I don't know, we're going to call it Ferry Lane. Sure, why not? State, province, we're going to call it New York, and we're going to call it country USA. And then her office, if she has office, I suppose whatever the company wants, whether it's office number or, I don't know, maybe some other address. I'm not sure. It's whatever the company wants you to do. This is just basically information. So we're going to say she is in building A, office 3006, right? And then we're going to say she's in New York. What's a New York zip code? I don't know. I'm not even going to, whatever. I'm just going to say this. I don't know what New York zip codes are. I don't live in New York. And then if she has a mobile phone number, we want to put this in. If it's a company given, or if she wants to share it, we don't know. And then we have her main email here, and then we want to ask her if she wants to add alternative email, and we can change it if she has the old ones, remove it, and this and that. And here's the proxy address, which this is just for the email, SMTP, which is simple mail transfer protocol, and that's what that is, right? We're going to look at assignment roles. So when we clicked on Sally, first thing we had was profile, and then we got assignment roles. Now we see that she's a team administrator. So if we go back here, we can see that she's teams administrator, meaning for the company, teams administrator. If we click on manage role, she's got teams administration. So she has full access to Teams and Skype Admin Center, manage Microsoft 365 groups and service requests, and monitors service health. So she's got full-blown Teams administrator privilege, which is reflected in here. Let's see here. We're going to go back just to show you again. Repetition is the key, guys. So users, and then Sally Mo, and then assigned roles, and then you can see that she's a Teams administrator. She can manage the Microsoft Teams service. And that's fine. We can give her another role and remove this one if we really wanted to. Matter of fact, let's select that. We're going to select the remove. You know, she doesn't need to have full access, but since this is a new company that we created, she was helping, you know, but that's okay. We're going to, you know, have somebody else do it because she's too busy. So we're going to give her a different assignment, which, by the way, is click add assignments. When you have assigned role selected, click add assignments. And what do we want to make her? We're going to make her, you know, because it's a finance department, we're going to make her billing administrator so she can deal with that, right? So that way she can deal with that. We don't necessarily want to give her anything else. But again, it doesn't matter because when it comes down to it, it's all about the company, what the company wants that you're working for. What does the company want? You just follow those rules. I've added the role, but it's still not refreshing, which is fine. It may take a bit, so that's fine. It doesn't matter. Let me see. How long does it? There it is. Billing administrator. Okay. All right. Administrative units. Assigned to administrative unit. So if it's a unit, means a group of people, administrators, then we can assign her to that. We don't have to worry about that. Groups. So again, she's actually part of multiple groups. And the reason there's two of them here is because whenever I was making that distro that we talked about before, she had to be added in there too. And remember, we had issues actually creating distros in our previous videos for the Exchange. So we went ahead and created a finance group, which is actual Microsoft 365 group, which includes not just group email, but all of those things that come with Teams, meaning that, you know, they can have their own internal website, they can make their own changes, they can do things together. And what was it called again? I forget. SharePoint. That's what it is. SharePoint. I said Teams. I know that's different. SharePoint, which is basically internal website in which everybody that's in part of this group, they can collaborate together and work on it, and just a place to organize teams, which is different from Teams. It's different from Teams, guys, okay? Distro here, this is just the email list, right? This is the email list we talked about in our Exchange video. So again, here she is. She's part of these groups. We clicked on groups, and she's part of these groups. If we click on groups, we can see even more in Azure Active Directory. So now it took us, you know, from Sally Mo directly into this finance group. So now we're managing not just Sally, but everybody that's in this group. And membership type, we can see that she's just assigned. This is just all informative. Everything you see, this is just information. We can't make changes in here. This is just the informative type of thing, you know. So she's part of this, and she is they're one owner of this, and she's the owner. And here are group links. If we click on group links, like for example their SharePoint, we can go to their SharePoint, Outlook, or Teams. And matter of fact, let's test it. If we click on Outlook, it's going to take us to their inbox for their Teams groups. Here it is. Finance group is ready. This is their inbox. Everything that they use together, everybody that's part of that group can control any of this and send email on behalf. Here's their SharePoint. Here's their website for the group. You know, remember we created this site pages, work sessions, plans for tomorrow. Remember we created this when we talked about SharePoint. And Teams, we haven't talked about that yet, but we certainly can in the next video. You just gotta let me know. All right. So next thing here under groups is applications. any applications that she is working on. So, if she's working on something, all of this stuff will be listed here. And in this case, we don't have that, and that's fine. But whenever you're working for somebody, you'll see all the things that she's working on or inherited from somebody else, and this and that. So this is, think of it like projects, but they're applications, right? So this is what's going to show up in here. Licenses, which is the next thing. We can see what kind of licenses she has. And the first thing is Microsoft Power Automate free. What this is basically, I think this is free for everybody who is part of Microsoft, I think. But basically what it does, it helps you get organized and automate certain tasks within your organization or for yourself. So that's what that's about. And then the next license we have and is Office 365. So she's got access to Office 365. And interesting here, well, first of all, it says here active, right? So if it's active, that means it's working. It's kind of self-explanatory, something to keep in mind. Let's say she says, I no longer have access to Office 365. Well, you can see the state here. It says active. Well, you could say, well, yeah, it's working. Or it could say not active or whatever. And then we have enabled services. And that basically how many parts of the Office 365 she has access to, meaning additional license. Well, let's click what that looks like. So we click on this and we can see the things that she has access to, right? And these are all things, basically. These are all part of the license. So she has all the access to all of this stuff as long as she's set up to have access to these things, right? So they're all here and we can turn it on or off. They're on by default, looks like. And, if we want to disable something for her, if we no longer want her to manage Teams, we can simply just select off. We're like, sorry, Sally, we can't let you manage Teams, but we're going to leave it on. That's fine. Matter of fact, did we? Yeah, we're going to disable it, guys. We're going to disable it because we removed her. She's no longer admin. We're just going to do that. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It's whatever. I mean, it matters, of course. If she can't do some of these things, you might want to enable, disable, or whatever. But this is just the part where you manage the license. So if your organization tells you, or her manager tells you, you need to disable Microsoft Teams for Sally, you better do that. Simple as that. So in that sense, it doesn't matter what's on and off. It's whatever the company wants. Simple as that, guys. All right. Let's go back and see what else we can talk about. Devices. Clicking on devices, and it says no devices found. I think this actually takes a while to refresh. I've actually added a device for her. I've added a device for her, which is my cell phone, basically. I use my cell phone to create a device for her. And I downloaded, you can actually download Office 365 to your Android or iOS, I believe. And then you can, of course, have Windows and Mac. I'm pretty sure Mac as well. Devices as added in here. One great feature about this is that you can manage BitLocker keys. So if it's a Windows operating system, you can access their BitLocker keys and stuff like that. So, okay, let me just show you what I did here. So we're under devices, and then all I did was click on view all devices, and then from here you can access their BitLocker keys. And this is in a preview state here. So this is something new, I suspect, which is kind of cool actually, that you can get BitLocker keys like this. So if BitLocker keys usually are an issue whenever a Windows machine is I don't want to say corrupted necessarily, but crashes. And usually due to crashes, you may get a prompt that's asking you for a BitLocker key. This is usually related to some kind of hardware issue. You lose power, for example, and then the device itself assumes that you took that hard drive and put it into something else, right? Into a different device, which this might be the case too. And when you take a hard drive from a Microsoft operating or from a computer that has Microsoft OS on it, and you put it into a different computer, you won't be able to access it unless you have BitLocker keys. So this is kind of cool. I haven't gotten the chance to use this because I don't have a big organization to test this with. Now, just real quick, we can obviously reset password. This is the main thing. If we click reset password, we can simply just, reset her passwords. And we click on resetting passwords, and then we're going to give her a temporary one. Uh, this is one way of doing this. She gets a temporary. You don't get a choice to type it in. But if you go to Microsoft Admin 365 Center and select on Sally here, you can certainly reset password, and in a different way where you can automatically create a password. You can require the user to change the password when they first sign in, or email the sign info to me. I mean, to Sally, basically. So for that, Microsoft Admin Center is better in my opinion. So I would reset password as in here rather than in here, because this doesn't give you an option. What happens is that you give them this password. I mean, it's your personal preference, of course. You give them this password, and they can sign in, and it's going to force them to change it. So that's what's going to happen. You copy it, you send it to them, give it to them, tell it to them, and it's just going to force them to change it anyways. So that's what's going to happen with this here. Of course, we can revoke her sessions, and what that means, if she's logged in at multiple places, if we find that she's logged in at multiple like multiple IP addresses, and it looks very sketchy, fishy, or there's some kind of issue with login, we can revoke all the sessions for the user. This is good to do if she has an issue with the password being locked out. If she keeps getting locked out, chances are that she's logged into multiple devices, and these devices have a wrong password or something like that. Weirder things have happened. And if you click this, it's going to basically kick her out of all of those sessions that she's connected with. So any device, anything she's logged in, she's going to get kicked out, basically. And you can just say yes, and boom, she's kicked out. Of course, we can delete her right here, or we can refresh. This is just a refresh, nothing else. All right, guys. Okay, before we start off, let's do a roll call. This worked out really well as a suggestion in my last video. So just like as if we were in the classroom, please in the comments just say present, hi, hello, or here. Just so that I know that you guys are still watching and interested in this type of videos. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And let's move on from that to learning about Teams. We're going to show you an example of what happens when Teams is broken, then we're going to fix it. So here's Sally Mo. If you guys remember, we talked about Sally Mo, and I always kind of concentrate and work around her as she's a manager. So in this case, Sally Mo wants to use Teams, because Teams is a really good place where you can collaborate, chat, and just have a place where your organization, or your part of organization, in this case finance, she works in finance as a manager. This is a good place for her to collaborate with her team workers or issue orders. I mean, keep in mind, she's a manager, so she needs to have a place to control these people that work for her. All right, so here she is. This is her. She's logged in Office, office.com. She's logged in, and now she's, contacted me and says, I can't find Teams. I can't find Teams. So if I scroll down over here on the left and look for Teams, it's not there. Look, it's not there. So I'm like, well, how is that possible? Why don't you have Teams? You should have Teams. I mean, and then you click on this to expand it, right, on this checkerboard type of thing, and then you're looking, and where's Teams? There is no Teams. All right, then we expand, and then still there is no Teams. I don't see Teams anywhere. So that's a problem, right? So I tell her, for example, which is just a role-playing thing, I could just say, okay, Sally, can you please go to Microsoft Teams.Microsoft.com, just like it says up here. So it's Teams.Microsoft.com. So I tell her to do that, right? And this is what she gets, right? It says, you're missing out. Ask your admin to enable Microsoft Teams for Cosmic Novo. And it says you're currently signed in as Sally, you see here, and then it says here she has an option to sign up for Teams. But if she clicks on that, it takes her to just the Microsoft website, and that's going out of our organization, and that's not what we want. This is not how you fix this problem. So she can't access it. So it's not listed in her office, in her Microsoft Office. It's not listed anywhere in there. And this is the error she gets. So what's the problem? It says you're missing out. Ask your admin to enable Microsoft Teams. Well, what the heck? Remember, guys, we did enable Microsoft Teams and added her as part of Office 365 group. When we went to Exchange, this is again, this is everything's tying in together, guys. When we went to Exchange and created a group, finance group, and made her as a manager because she's a manager, we created Office 365 group, which creates everything that you need, including Teams for them. So here we are in Exchange admin, and we created Microsoft 365 group. Once you create that, and here's finance, it creates all of these things that are part of Office 365 group, including Teams. And it adds all of these people that are in finance group. We have one owner. So let's see who the owner is, right? We know that the owner from the previous video is Sally. So if we click on members here, we can see that the owner is Sally Moe. And then here are the members. These are all people that have access to this finance group, which again has Microsoft Teams here. You see, it has Microsoft Teams. They're all part of Teams when you create Office 365 group in Exchange. It creates all of that. So let's double check that. Okay, we're going to, as an administrator, we're going to go to our Teams. We're going to go scroll down all the way here, and then we're going to select Teams. We're going to, this is our panel. This is me signed in as administrator, and you in the future, hopefully, signed in as administrator. Okay, so we have a bunch of things on the left. A lot of these things we can certainly talk about in future videos, but let's just learn basics for now, right? So this is the first thing you get. She's like, I can't log in. What the heck? I can't log in. What's going on? So, and it says here, ask your admin, which is me or you. Ask your admin to enable Microsoft Teams. Well, it's enabled. So let's double check this. What I like to do when I'm in Microsoft Teams Admin Center, I like to click on this hamburger looking thing. So to expand it, hamburger sandwich, whatever you want to call it. Pop question, is hamburger a sandwich? I think it is. Anyways, let me know in the comments below. Anyways, I digress. Let's keep moving. So we are in Microsoft Teams, and it's telling us, ask your admin to enable Microsoft Teams. It's enabled, right? So we're going to double check. We're going to go to Teams. We're going to manage Teams. It's right up here. We're going to click Manage Teams. And sure enough, here's our finance group. So let's click on that. And it says here it's public. It's not, you see on the right here, it says public. It's enabled. What's going on? So we click on this, finance group. She's there. Look, she's in here. Here's Sally, and she's a member. It's enabled. It's public. She has access to it. So what the heck is going on? Let's go back to this. As part of troubleshooting, anytime you're troubleshooting, you want to look every little detail. That's my pro tip for you guys. Every time you're troubleshooting, not just this stuff, look at every detail. Let's read everything. It says you're missing out, okay? Ask your admin to enable Microsoft Teams. We've done that. We made sure it's enabled. For Cosmic Nova LLC, it's just fine. This is the company we're working for. And it says you're currently signed in as Sally. Okay, good. She's signed in properly. Select sign up for Teams to continue or use different account. So everything here is telling us that she's not signed up. And it just gives us two options, sign up for Teams or use different account. We don't want any of this. We already figured out she's already signed in correctly. So what else is there? Guys, you need to look at the bigger picture. So if we look at here, it says Teams up here on the URL, Teams, Microsoft.com. And then if we look further, oh, look at this. What is this? It says license error. And then it says error code. Wow, this is amazing. And it says user license not present. And then it says it's forbidden. Now, This is just a page it routes to tell you when user does not have a proper license to use Teams or something else is amiss. But in this case, it's telling us specifically license error, error code user license not present. User license not present, and this is why she's forbidden from viewing Teams. All right, so she's forbidden from using Teams because user license is not present. So we're going to go and give her a license to do it. All right, so we're going back to our Microsoft Admin Center, and we're going to look her up. We're going to go to users. We know it's just Sally. It's just Sally saying, I don't have access to it, right? It's all good. We're going to go to users, and we now know what to look for. Specifically, we know what to look for, and that is if she has a license to view it. So we're going to click active users, and here's Sally here on the bottom, or you can just search for her on the right here. It doesn't matter, whatever your preference is. But here she is. We're going to click Sally, and this is where I like to do it. You can also do this in Azure Active Directory. And then what is the error again? Licenses. And here it is. Third tab over. We're going to click licenses and apps. So what's going on here? We know she has Office 365 license here for faculty. So, you know, according to what we set up in previous videos, excuse me, we know that when we assign this license, it should come with Teams, right? Because she's part of faculty, and in this case, this is just a faculty license, just to kind of reiterate this, because this is a teacher's version of Office 365, just so you guys know. But we can say and assume that faculty are managers. So let's say this is faculty for manager. So we know that by default she gets Teams, right? But what's going on? She still can't log in, all right? And that's okay. We can expand, just like when we were in the setup, down here where it says apps, we're going to expand and see specifically what she has access to. And then here it is, everything that she has access to. Scroll down, look for things that stand out. What does stand out? Microsoft Teams. And it says here Office 365, and she doesn't have it. So we're going to do a check mark. We're going to select it. So again, this is what we found. She didn't have it. She did not have access to Microsoft Teams. So we're going to select that. We're going to click Save Changes. Okay. Now this may take like a minute or two to take effect, and make sure you click Save Changes down here. I know it says here that it's saved, but just to be sure, click Save Changes here, and then we're going to, you know, just to make sure, nothing wrong with that. And while it, let's see if it updated. Okay, so I'm not gonna hit refresh on this, obviously, because it's gonna bring me to the same page most likely. So we're going to delete this, and we're going to type in teams.microsoft.com, see if changes took effect for better. Here it is. Voila, we fixed her problem. And she now has access to Microsoft Teams, and this is what users can see. It's quite different. Let me minimize the background window that I had. This is what users see, and it's very straightforward, guys. There's really nothing super complex when it comes to this part of it, when it comes to using Microsoft Teams as a user. And then of course, you know, you get stuff like this. You've seen this before. It kind of looks like your email, you know, like your Gmail or whatever email client that you use, except you can, you know, communicate or with your team and do some things, you know. So anyways, we're going to see what kind of access she has just real quick here. So she's logged in, and because we've enabled Teams for her specifically, and then when she goes and clicks on her group, she can see all the posts. And now we can say we're going to have her create a new conversation just so we can get it started. Just like it says here, let's get the conversation started, guys, right? And then and then we're going to mention some of the people that work for her. So we're going to go with, I don't know, we'll see. Let's click new conversation. And this is just a group chat, just like in Discord or whatever, right? So we're going to say, hello, Mike. We're going to pretend we're Sally. let's do at Mike Moser. So she is Mike's manager. Can you please update the worksheet from yesterday? Okay, so this is Sally saying, hello, Mike, can you please update the worksheet from yesterday? So this is straightforward, and Mike can see this. This is just like Discord. Guys, if you've seen Discord, this is Discord, basically, this part of it. However, you can also share files here, and then you can, click to update and add new files, upload this and that. So there's a little bit more to it, but when it comes to user point of view, this is what they mainly see, and they got these options that they can do other things with the group that they're working with. So I feel like this is kind of self-explanatory. If she wants to share a file, she can click on file and share it. So let's just kind of look at what else we can do as a user, just real quick, just to kind of real quick cover this. And again, I'm not going to go super detailed. So we get the first tab up here, which is activity. It shows your activity. What was the last thing what that happened? And it says Irvin made you an order of finance. Remember, we did that. Irvin added you to finance group. We've done that before, and we can. These are new chats. These are all chats that happen if somebody messages you through here or whatever. And if I wanted to send a Mike direct message, I can just type in Mike Moser, and we're going to select him and say, "Hi, Mike. You there?" Because he's not responding and he could be sleeping. We don't know. Here's Teams. This is our group. This is our group chat, right? This is a group chat. And only Mike and those 4 other people that are in the group, or 3 or 4 people, I don't know exactly now. I mean, we can certainly find that out. But this is Sally's group. They're a manager. So they're the only ones who can see this. They can create a meeting. If you click on here, they can start a meeting. They can have their own meeting. You can schedule a meeting. These are just basic things you can do. We could assignments, create different assignments for different members and for us or whatever. Here's a calendar. This is just a calendar. Enough said. Calls, you can make calls. You can. And this is where you check your calls, and these are all your files that are in here. This is created anywhere. Like they all carry over from OneDrive. So that's all there is to it. So let's see how it kind of looks like from other members' point of view. So we know Sally said to Mike, hey, can you do this or whatever. So we're going to do the same thing. As Irvin, as me, we're going to go to Teams. So as Irvin, we're going to go in there and we're going to see what's going on. So Irvin is part of all kinds of groups because, he's the overlord. Here's our finance group. Let's see what's going on in finance group. So here's Sally talking to Mike. Can you please update the worksheet from yesterday? So notice when I go in here, I get the same thing because in this case, I'm just a member of this. I'm no longer viewing it as the administrator as opposed to here. This is our administrator panel, administrator center, if you will, where we can manage these teams. And this is where you would spend quite a bit of your time when it comes to adding or creating new groups, adding new members, changing memberships, and this and that. And I will touch on that here briefly. Let me just show you what happens here when she said something. I'm just going to reply and show you that it works just like Discord. I'm going to say, hi, Sally. Mike, I don't know, is away for a few minutes just to let her know that, she can chill. And then you can see I got the pop-up notification over here, or Sally did, right? You see her activity here, and then it says Irvin replied to you, and there you go. I feel like that's super self-explanatory when it comes to user point of view. So let's go back to the administrator part of it. So here we are back into our managed teams here, and here is our finance group. And if we want to make changes or add new people, we can certainly do that. It's really simple. You just click add members, and whoever is created, we can add them in there. So let's do that. We're going to create a new person that we can add, and he's going to be working for finance. We're going to click add user. We're going to create him. We're going to call him, I don't know. Let's call him Larry. Do I have Larry in there? Let me just cancel real quick. No, we don't have Larry. We're gonna add Larry, guys. Oh yeah, Larry. Larry. What did I call him last time when I made Active Directory videos? Larry Bird? Larry Bird. Why not? Larry Bird. Isn't Larry Bird like a basketball player? Whatever. All right, so we're just gonna make his account real quick. We're gonna make him whatever. We're just gonna select a license, guys. I've done this a few times already in the early videos, in the first video especially. If you want to know more details on how to create a new person or add a new user, certainly go in there and watch my very first video. There is a link to the playlist right up here, guys, in the right hand side, right hand corner. There's a playlist, so check it out. All right, let's see if Larry updated. Again, repetition is the key. We are in Microsoft Teams Admin Center, and we are going to select Manage Teams, Finance Group. He's a new member of Finance. He just started working. We're going to click Add Member. We're going to add Larry. Come on, Larry. There he is, Larry B. We're going to add Larry into the group. And that's how you add Larry into the group. You know, if he's already in there, this is simple, very, very simple. And we can change ownership. However, you have to make somebody owner first. Let's make me, so like if I can't just make Sally member. You see it gives me an error right here. You can't set the owner as a member because they are the last team owner. So somebody has to take over. So let's say Sally, our manager of finance group, quits, and then I don't know, let's say Irving becomes a manager. We're going to make him the owner to take ownership. You know, it says here added, and it can take up to 10 minutes. But then we can remove her, or we can just make her just a regular member. And that's how you change ownership of these teams, groups, and whatnot. Very similar to everything else like Exchange and whatnot. All right. So let's move on. We're going to talk about Teams policies real quick. So that's the next thing underneath Manage Teams. So what's a team policy? It's a group policy that controls settings and features for a specific group. So instead of having to add individual person and add specific restrictions to them, this and that, we're going to create a group policy that we can apply automatically to an entire group instead of adding people. So if I see here, says here manage policies, and we can certainly do that. We have two different ones already in here. The first one is global. This is just a default one that's created. And the second one is this one. And it says here custom policy. That means it was created specifically by us, right? And I haven't shown this in a video because this is something I've created, but I'll show you right now. So we're going to click add right here, and we're going to create a new one. We're going to say finance DPT policy. And we're going to leave it at that. Create private channel. If you want to see, this just says create private channels for specific groups using in your organization. Only these people that are added to private channel will be able to see, right? And this is just a group chat, private group chat that it creates as well on top of this, which is fine. We don't have to worry about that. So this is a group policy setting. So this is going to be a group policy setting. So we can go in here and add, you know, people individually if we really wanted to, but we're just going to add entire group to it. So, but an example of this, if we just select it, make sure it's highlighted, not click on it. When you click on it, it expands it like this. But if you select it, like go to the right and just click anywhere, you can manage users. So if you click manage users, I mean, you can add Sally in there, right? She shows up, and we can add her in there and apply and save. You know, but you know how long that would take if there was like 100 people? We don't want to do that. So we're gonna add a group, the entire group to it. So how do we do that? Well, you've guessed it. It's right next to manage policies. It says group policy assignment. We're going to take this policy and we're going to assign it to a specific group, which you guessed it, it's finance group. So we're going to select the group policy assignment. Okay. And here are some groups that are already added in there. This specific one is added to this one here. Anyways, so we're going to assign this policy to an entire group. We're going to select group policy assignment. We're going to add the group. We're going to add the group and we're going to find it. The group we've created previously, it's called finance group. So we're going to add, and here it says select a rank. And this specifically talks about if users in these groups are part of any other groups with group policy, these users will inherit the policy from the group with the highest rank. What this means that how important are these group policy settings when it comes to hierarchy. If you want this group policy to be the first one, you might want to rank this high. So if you want this to override any other groups policies that are assigned, then you would rank this high. So let's say there are problems with accessing certain things, but some kind of group policy is preventing that happening. You can certainly change the rank to something higher to overwrite any of those other ones. So if there is an issue, you rank this really high to make sure that this is the main one that takes control of everything that users can do. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it like this, and I'm going to select policy name, and here's our final policy name that we created, finance DPT policy. So we are assigning this finance DPT policy to an entire financial group. We've selected the group we want to apply this to. We're going to select apply. So everything that is in this policy that we've created is going to be applied to the finance group here that we've selected. And again, you can see that it says here that we've applied it. So there you go. That's how you add these group policies, and that's how you assign it to a group. Am I too worried about this? Not really, because you're kind of limited to what you can do here when it comes to actual policy. I mean, if you, at least in the access that I have, I'm not sure if it becomes any different otherwise. So what? We got finance department policy created. When I click edit, well, what kind of restrictions can I place? I can't do anything here. So it's not something I dwell on too much, but I'm not too worried about it because we're talking about access to, chats, teams, activities, and this is just like granting access to Discord or not, basically. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, and chances are this will be left to very basic or may not even be anything in there. So that's fine. Next thing is update policy. I mean, this kind of goes into updating this global policy. It's kind of the same thing. It's very limited what I can do here, and that's all there is to it. There's really not a whole lot to teach there. Moving on, the next thing is devices. Now, keep in mind what the access I have to show you this system is limited to what I can show you when it comes to software part of it. I don't have IP phones. I don't have an iPhone either. I use Android. But anyways, I don't have any IP phones, Teams rooms, collaboration, team displays, or Teams panels. So if you select, we got IP phones here, and then you can see what's there. I'm confident you guys can figure this out as is common sense. I mean, look at the first tab, it says all phones, and then you've got user phones. You got common area phones. So these are all IP phones, like, desk phones, this and that. I obviously don't have them, but you can click, for example, here in configuration profiles, and then you can create a specific configuration for those phones, and then certainly apply them to any of these devices that show up. So this is just IP phones, right? We're going to click add. We're going to create new profile, IP phone, settings, and here just use common sense. but they're already going to be there. When if you have it, if you when you start at a company, there's going to be um, there, and then you can set all these things up, and they're self-explanatory. You can see device lock, you can turn it on. You can see 30, you can see a timeout 30 seconds like idle, device lock pin, all this basic stuff that when it comes to phones. I'm not going to talk about it too much because these are just preferences that your company might have, and whatever they tell you to do when it comes to this part, you can certainly create this profile, and you can ask all these things. Do we want, like, let's say you start working for this company and they say create a profile for IP phones. And then you're like, okay, no problem. But you got to tell me what kind of preferences do you want to use. So they're going to have to tell you. If they want to use high contrast, they turn on high contrast. It doesn't matter. And then you can change network settings. Now, this is an important part of it, and you definitely need to ask. So if you want to create this policy for IP phones, then, and if you're the guy that does, I suppose if you did this, you're also a networking guy, then you're going to want to know these settings, these specific settings, whether it's, host name, domain names, IP addresses, subnet mask, all of this network stuff you're going to need to know. Okay, and then we're just going to click save. I wonder if it's even going to let me save without filling it out. Well, it is. Well, there you go. So same deal when we talked about Teams. You can, assign the devices. You can add devices to it. You click assign devices, and then you can add devices. Since we don't have any, it's not going to be there. But if you go here on all phones, you can select the phone and then assign that configuration to it. Very, very self-explanatory. I'm sure you guys can figure this out. Same thing when it comes to all of these other things under devices. It's Teams rooms. These are all like displays and this and that. And then collaboration bars. You can, these are just another type of profiles and touch counts. Like all of these electronics, right? And again, you can create new configuration profiles. So whenever there's something going on, you just create a new configuration profile and add it in there. Then we got displays and we got panels. It's all just electronic devices that you can control, but and you can apply different configuration profiles to them. All right, guys, I'm running a little bit out of steam. I'm getting tired, so I'm gonna see what else I can talk about here. Okay, so there's a lot more to talk about this when it comes to managing any of this stuff. For example, if you click here on users, you can see the users. You can select any of them and make changes, view the policies that are on there, delete them, change their password, this and that. This is stuff we've covered before. It's self-explanatory if you watched all of my videos previously. And all of these other stuff, there's a lot to talk about, and we can make videos specifically for that. So let me know if there are certain things you can want to touch on. But just kind of going back to these like IP phones and this and that. Let's just, for example, look at this. If we go to voice, we can see that, we can touch on IP phones, even though we don't have IP phones, but we can talk about different things that are like on there, like there are available phone numbers, operators, basically a phone company that handles your outside calls, incoming calls, this and that. All right, now that you guys are here, let's get into it. So we're going to start expanding. In the first video of the series that I've done, we talked about users. So now we're going to talk about users and everything else in detail as much as possible. So in the previous videos, we talked about users, and it was just active users and how to add a user. And we're going to go through this again just one more time real quick. But we're going to also talk about contacts, we're going to talk about guest users, and we're going to talk about how to restore deleted users and the reason why it's even there, right? So we're going to talk about all these things and keep expanding on users. So from top down, let's go ahead and create a user. We're going to click add user. We're going to call him, or we're going to call her, Jasmine Long. Why not? And we're going to call her Jasmine Long, and we're going to give her a username or login ID of Jasmine L, just to keep it professional and up to business standards. And this is going to be her login ID at cosmicnovo.onmicrosoft.com. We're going to create automatic password. we're going to require her to change the password when she first signs in, so she has a unique password that only she knows. And send password in email upon completion. We're not going to do that for security purposes. I mean, some businesses may allow it, but in this case, I don't think it's necessary because she's going to be given this password verbally, or meaning over the phone, because I don't want to leave any paper trail. However, you can do this. It's going to be a temporary password if you'd like. So if you want to send an email, that's fine. But the chances are, if she doesn't even have email yet, it doesn't make sense. Like if she's a new person, that she'll have email until she logs in. So she's going to have to log in. And in that sense, you got to give her password somehow. Right? She can't log into Outlook unless she already knows the password. So sending a password in email upon completion makes very little sense. So I'm not gonna do that because she's gonna need a password to log in to begin with, right? So Jasmine Long is gonna be that. I'm gonna assign her a license. I'm just gonna make her just a regular license. And again, if you followed my videos, you know that the Office 365 that I have here is for teaching, and the licenses are as such. And in that sense, I treat faculty as managers or somebody higher up, and students as just a regular user. So we're going to make her a regular user, and we're not going to create without licenses because then, she's not going to be able to use anything pretty much. And we're going to leave it at that. And we talked about apps in detail before, so we're just going to reiterate since we talked about this already. That was our first video that I've created in the series to get you started. She's just a basic user. We're gonna leave it at that. We're not gonna give her any roles. She's not gonna be administrator. She's just gonna be a regular user. But if we were gonna make her administrator, we can certainly do that, and then we can make her whatever we want. Okay. So we're gonna leave her as a user, and then we're gonna click finish adding, and then we're gonna tell her, well, here's your new password. You can log into that. By the way, I'm gonna leave this as this. So if you guys want to go to Office 365 and log in as Jasmine, let me know if you're the first person who did this. And I'm going to leave this password to this, and you guys can change it if you want. All right, so that's kind of fun. Let's do that. Okay, so we got Jasmine Long in there. That's great. So that's a manual way of adding a user. If you want to create a user just real quick without having to fill out all of that and go through all those screens, all those pages, if you will, we can use templates, and it's right next to add user. We can select user templates. So instead of having to fill all that out, we can simply select one of the templates and fill it out real quick. So let's create a template just so you get an idea. A template is pretty much all the stuff that we've did when it comes to login part of it, except it will allow us to just select it rather than having to fill it all out. So it's a quick way of doing what we just did. So we're going to call it users, and we're going to say users template. So we're going to create a template that will allow us to create users much quickly, and this template will have all the basic settings that we need to save us time. We can leave this here, publish this template, make this template available to other admins who manage users. That's fine. If you have multiple admins, you may not want to, but in my case, that's fine. We're going to make it available. Whoever logs in, they can use the template. And then here it is. Here are the settings that we've seen similarly. We're going to choose a domain, and this is our domain. We're going to leave it as it is. Same one as we've always used. You can have multiple domains, but in this case, we're going to use that. And for this situation, we can also set the type of password setting. So it's auto-generated password, or you can say, let me create a password. We're going to leave it auto-generated to make it simple. And then we're going to say, require the user to change their password when they first sign in. That's perfectly fine. We did the same thing previously. So we're going to click next. Location, we're going to leave it at the United States. Here we have to make sure we select a license. So this is a template license that's going to be applied to our future users that we're going to create. Remember, we decided to use students license here as if they were users. So we're just going to select that. And then we're going to leave this here, and we're not going to mess with apps here. We're not going to make any changes. We're just going to leave it at this basic license and apps here. So that's fine. We're going to leave this here. Of course, you can make any changes you want. and name that template accordingly. So if you want to make any custom settings, this is the whole point of the template. You can do this here. And then we're going to click next. And since it's just a regular user, if we expand roles, we're just going to leave it at regular user. We're not going to give him, it's not, template is not called admin template. It's called user. So we're going to leave it that. Profile info. And then we can do this here as a kind of to save us time, right? Remember, this is the whole point of a template. We're going to say department, and we're going to call it students, because make it easier, and I can't think of anything else. Did I spell students? Students. There it is. Office phone number, and street address. We're going to call this 500 Education Drive, because we're going to pretend like this is a school. City, I don't know. Let's just say New York as one of the most popular places. And why? I don't know a zip code in New York, but that's okay. We're going to say country USA. Hopefully it lets us go further without him putting in zip code, and it does, which is great. So here's our template. We're going to go over it, and if we want to make any changes to the template, we can simply just select edit and go back and make any custom changes if we want. So finish adding, and then close. Now that I think about it, I really should have called that template students, but that's okay. So here's our user templates, and if we want to add somebody quickly, we're going to select user templates, and we're going to select users. This is the one we just created. If we do this, see, now most of the things are already filled out for us. Here are all the things on the bottom that we've already I was going to say installed, but we've added. So here it is: auto generate password. This is domain, auto generate, and user change password first login. We have a license here, which is students, and then we have their address here, right? So a lot of stuff is already saved. So all we have to do now is just create a new user, and let's say the student's name is, oh, I don't know, George Henry. So this is a guy with two first names. That's fine. George Henry. We're going to give him an ID of George H. And we're going to leave this here. We can of course send password and email. And we talked about this. I'm not gonna do that this here. And that's it. And of course, if I really want to switch to a different template, I can certainly do that here too. If I just suddenly, oh wait, George is a manager, we can select manager here. And you can see how everything changes here. Everything from profile information to the license and everything. But George is a user. He's one of our students. We're going to leave it at that. Okay. And here it is. Here is another example of if you guys want to log in, go to office.com and check, log in as George. Let me know if you did this. Whoever does this first gets to change this password. So I'm going to leave it at that. All right. I don't know why I find this funny, but it'd be interesting to know if anybody actually tried this. Okay, well, that's the templates. You see how it saves you time? So it's pretty cool. Here's the next tab over, which is add multiple users. We can select add multiple users. What this does, it allows you to download a blank CSV file with required headers. So what this does, if you download it and open it up, you can fill out, here it is. You can fill out all of these fields with people. So let's say, you're going through HR first. HR has to do their thing, and they may not necessarily be keeping their data somewhere else. You can see that they can literally use this Excel spreadsheet. In this case, and this is a, I'm not using Office here to open this, but technically, essentially, this is Excel, right? You can see the same fields for every username that we've looked at many times over, from their first name to last, display name, job, all of this stuff, phone number, all of their address. They can fill this out with multiple users, multiple users. They can all fill this out on themselves and forward it to the admin, in this case you, and say, okay, can you add all of these people to the system, to the Office 365? And once all this filled out and saved, and you have a bunch of people in here, let's say, I don't know, 20 people, why not? Let's say that all of this filled out with all of their information. It's the same stuff as if you were to do it manually. It's just that it will save you time. You just go over here and then you select browse and then you upload it. All right, so it's kind of self-explanatory, and then you select next and it will just add multiple users. So that's pretty cool. I feel like it's self-explanatory. Okay, that's active user. What do we have? Active users, add users, user templates, add multiple users. Let's see what this is. More actions. And this allows you to do all kinds of different things here. From multi-factor authentication, you can set this up for people. And since we have it open, we can see that it's disabled for all of these people that we have in our active users, in our Active Directory, if you will. And we can simply just select one of them. So let's go ahead and select Jasmine that we've just created. We're going to select Enable if we really wanted to. We can select Enable. So we're going to select Enable multi-factor authentication for her account, which is really cool. Some companies might want to use this, and we can also enforce it. And we can select Manage User Settings here, and then we can customize it if we really wanted to. We can say require selected user to provide contact methods again, delete all existing app passwords generated by the selected users, restore multi-factor authentication on all remembered devices. So this is pretty useful if they get stuck on multi-factor login. Okay, so we're going to disable it here actually, because I want to see if somebody else can log in as Jasmine. So that's pretty cool. And what's next here? We can delete a user. We can certainly do that. This is just a refresh, just F5 right here. A reset password, export user, directory synchronization, Teams setup, status. So a lot of this stuff kind of goes into the other stuff that we're going to talk about in the future, but to just kind of move on from active users, because since we have a lot of stuff that we can talk about here, contacts, guest users, and deleted users, we got to keep it moving. So we're going to delete a user, and we're going to do that down the line. Once we get to the deleted user, we're going to test that. Everything else here we've done. Reset password, you guys know how to do that. You just select the person, you do a reset password. If I were to select Jasmine here, we can reset her password. That's pretty easy. You guys know how to do this. We can block their sign-ins, we can delete them as well, and we're going to try that and we're going to show you that. But anyways, let's go to contacts, and then we're going to move on from there. We're going to eventually get to deleted users. Okay, so we're going to move on to contacts. So here it is. Contacts are people outside your organization that you'd like everyone to be able to find. So anyone listed here can be found in Outlook under People in Microsoft 365. So the purpose of this is just to add an external contact. So let's say you have a vendor or somebody outside who helps the company, I don't know, let's say do some kind of networking support. So we're going to add this person in here so that users and everybody else can find this contact quickly, and even like in Outlook or just under People in Microsoft Outlook. And we're going to demonstrate how that works too. So we're going to create one. We're going to make up. We're going to call him or her. Oh, well, let's make it a guy this time since we made a lady already. We're going to call him. You know what? Let's do Kumar, right? Kumar Patel. Okay, let's do that. Kumar Patel. And then we're going to add his email. We're going to call it Kumar P at, I don't know, let's see, who can we say as our network? Let's say networkinc.com. So this is a fictional, obviously, email, and a person in this case, and then we're going to make sure we just have his contact in there. We're going to go into detail as much as possible. And here it is, an option here, hide from my organization's global address list. I don't see a need for this because he's going to be our network contact for network support, so I'm not going to hide him. That would be counterproductive. If we expand profile info, so if I just click here, we're going to add more details. So for his company, we're just going to say network INC, and his office number, we're just going to have to make it up as we go. And he might have a mobile phone number, his fax number, title, and we're going to call him network support engineer, ENG. And his website, we're going to, we don't have to put this part in, but let's just do it. Let's just start networkinc.com. All right, we're just going to put it in. And if we have his address, we can certainly put it in there. And they're not going to necessarily have a street address. I mean, they might, but the main things to have in here are his phone number, the company he works for, and his email address. Oops, I closed that. And his email address. And of course, we know who he is. So we're going to make sure that his email address shows up there so that way we can contact it. To me, that's number one nowadays because everything is digital nowadays. But it's good to have his office number and even maybe his mobile phone just in case we need to emergency contact him. So I'm not going to fill out his address here, because, it's not necessary in my opinion. But you can certainly do so if you have that information. Not a problem. So what I did here was actually click on mail tip to expand this box because it was closed like this before adding. And then I'm going to say Kumar is our network support contact. You can contact him in case of network outage. Okay, and then we're going to click add, and now we have Kumar in our contact list. So how does this help us, right? And I know it says here allow 30 minutes for your changes to take effect, which is fine, but what I'm hoping to happen right away, and we're going to have to just see if it happens. Let's see here that if a user can find them in Outlook. So this is our very popular person in my videos so far. I've just been using Sally here, Salimo, as our user tester, basically. So if we go to her Outlook and select Outlook, Sally should be able to find Kumar in here just by typing in a message. Again, remember it said it might take up to 30 minutes to populate or to update. But let's go and see what it says. Here, right away, it says to us that it's going to be under people in Microsoft 365 Outlook, under people Microsoft 365. So we can certainly go in here, and people is right here next to the inbox. So if you click on people, we can look for Kumar. And if we type in up here, we can just type in Kumar. But then again, we wouldn't necessarily know that that's his name for our network support. So instead of typing in Kumar, we're just going to type in network. And then we can see that Kumar comes up. If you type in network support, Kumar still comes up, which is great. Alternatively, you can find Kumar just by going down to directory down here. And I don't know, we're going to select default global address. So this is everybody in the company. And we can scroll down and look for Kumar. And there he is right here. We can see all of the stuff that we filled out. So there's Kumar. Now, this should automatically populate his email address when we go in to create a new contact or new message, I should say, new email to somebody. So we can type in Kumar and he will probably come up. Well, maybe not. Maybe it takes a little bit, which is, I don't know. Maybe this is part of the system. It just kind of takes a while. It did say 30 minutes to update, which is fine. Let's see if anything comes up. If we type in network, unfortunately, nothing. This really should be populating automatically with his email and his name and everything. But again, I digress. It may indeed take 30 minutes to update. And that's fine. It's okay. We can still find Kumar under people. And if we search for network, support. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, it's not. Yeah, there's something off about this. Maybe it's searching under my contacts only. Well, let's select directory here. Default global work list and see if we can find. Yeah, it comes up now. So the search function here in Outlook, something's off about it. But nonetheless, we can find Kumar here, and then if we need to contact him, we can certainly contact him, and then we have his information right here, and if in case of network outage, we'll contact Kumar, and if we have to call him, we'll call him. That's fine too. So that's contacts. And of course, you can add multiple contacts if you really wanted to. You can export contacts, and this is, self-explanatory. Not much else to say here. Okay, now that we've talked about contacts, let's talk about guest users, which is the third thing down under users. So let's see, what do we want to do with users? Guests, and immediately, if every time you're not unsure what anything does, just look for everything that's on your screen immediately. Like if you see this right here, it says gives guests have access to teams, and then you can select manage team settings. That means that this guest user, they're literally a guest. They could be somebody from a different company. It gives you an idea right away that they're going to have Microsoft Teams access. But why is that? So they can collaborate with people that work within the company. And that's exactly the main reason, or the main reason would be for a guest user is to have access to other teams so they can collaborate and work together on whatever it is that they need to be working on together. In this context, the main thing we want to kind of concentrate on here is allow guest access into teams, right? We want to have them, we want to allow them to have access to teams so they can communicate with the people that they need to work with. Otherwise, there'll be no point. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about this part here. I wouldn't necessarily go in manage team settings or anything like that. Just leave that by default. Otherwise, there'll be no point of creating guest users. So let's create a guest user. Let's see how that looks like. And that takes us to Microsoft Azure. Isn't that interesting? We can create all the other users in here, but for a guest user, we have to go into Microsoft Azure, and that's okay. This is very simple here. It's hardly any different from regular user, aside from you don't give them any licenses or anything like that. So you don't give them any licenses. They can just log in so they can collaborate. And in this case, you can create a user and manually or yourself tell them what their login is, or you can send them invite to collaborate. And this user will be emailed an invitation they can accept in order to begin collaboration. And in my personal preference, I would just do this so that way they can just log in. But it depends on the situation. Maybe they came to the office and they're sitting next to you and say create user, and you just create new one. Either is fine. It's just very situational. So let's just go with the create user. It's very, very similar to what we've done here. And we're going to say who is visiting us. So let's see. Who do I feel like it's visiting us today? We're going to say, I don't know, Sunshine. We're going to call her Sunshine because she's very nice and she's visiting us. And it's very sunny and shiny outside right now. So that's the only thing I can think of. Name, we're going to call her Sunshine. And that's going to be her name. And then we're going to, her first name is going to be Sunshine. Last name, Patrick's. Sure, why not? That feels right to me. Okay, and then we're going to auto-generate password, or I can just create password for her and just tell her what it is. So just for the fun of it, I'm going to say this is her password, which by the way is password 123. Very weak password, but that's okay. Let me know if you guys can log in into Teams with this login, by the way. Password is password 123. No caps. Groups. So we want her to have access to a certain group. Let's say she's going to work with collab group. We can add her to collab group. We're going to select that. All right, collab group. But let's see, can we add one more? We can certainly do. So we're going to say finance group. Because remember, we talked about finance group. Why not? She can have access to both of these people. Let's say they're working on a project together. Roles. So we're going to, it says here user. We're going to leave it at user because there's no, there's no guest user per se. This is a guest inviter. It's like somebody who can invite them, but I'm not too worried about it. They're only going to have access to this basic stuff. And that's perfectly fine. There's no, security breach or anything like that. We can disable this later on, this access to this account in settings here, but right now it's not going to be blocked, so we're going to leave it on. Users location, if this person is, I don't know, let's say Philippines. Philippines? Did I spell Philippines? Yeah, I did. Did I find it? Where is it? Here it is. I knew I had it right. So let's say this person is working from Philippines. Why not? And she is going to be called Assistant Coordinator. I hope I spelled that right. English is my second language, guys. So my spelling is not the best. Department. We're going to say Finance Collab. Company name. We're gonna say you want to fill this out because they're visiting from somewhere else. We're gonna say Sunshine Inc. And they're not gonna have a manager necessarily that is their manager from that company in here unless they're already added. But in this case, it's okay perfectly to make somebody her manager. So we're going to make Sally, because remember, she is a manager from previous videos. So we're going to say that. And Sally might as well be her manager for the time duration that she's visiting and, creating. And unable to create user, the specific password does not comply with password complexity requirement. Aha! I am glad that happened. Now let's try capital P. PASSWORD 1 2 3. I wonder if it's going to take that. These are bad passwords, by the way, and it'll let me do that. These are bad passwords. Bad passwords. Okay, so we've added a guest user. Let's see this. Let's a refresh. Refresh. Come on, it's not refreshing. It's gonna take a bit. All right, that's okay. Let me open Azure Active Directory, see if she's in there. Just to double check. So Active Directory users. She is in here. There she is. Sunshine. It's just not replicating fast enough. Anyway, she's in there. We know she's in there. Now she can log in. And again, if you guys want to try it out, that's fine too. All right, deleted users. So here are some deleted users. From here, you can restore them, but let's delete one person and restore him. We're going to delete. Let's delete Larry. Why not? Delete Larry. And then it says here right away that you can restore deleted users and their data up to 30 days after you delete them. So you have 30 days to restore them. Okay? And then once you delete them, their license is unassigned and available for other users. So if you delete them, they're going to lose that license. So if you restore them, you may have to give them the license again. So let's go ahead and delete. Now, before I do that, you can give access to another user here for Larry Bird's email. This is very typical. And so that way, whoever used to be a manager of Larry can access his email so they can, get the contacts where they can, first of all, they can see what he did, what kind of work he did, and people who he contacted to. If he had external customers that are unaware that Larry got fired, for example, then they're going to have some way to let them know. Say, hey, Larry, is no longer with the company. Or they would say, this is Sally on behalf of Larry. Larry's no longer with the company. Basically out of office message type of thing. If you need help, contact this and that, and then it's a business type of thing. And then we're gonna say add somebody else um, with a person that can do this. So we're gonna say Sally. We're gonna say Sally. We can type in, but because it's his manager, we're gonna give Sally current her his access to his email, and then we're going to we can change the display name if we really wanted to, so that way, if she wants to completely take over his email, I guess she can do that too because it's just a mailbox. But we're just going to leave it at this because the only point we want to make here is that she can go in and change the auto reply, and we can do it here for them as well, which is fine. And here it is. Here's an example. It's very conveniently filled out for us. And thank you for contacting Cosmic Novo. We regret to inform you that Larry Bird is no longer employed here. Please, direct any future correspondence to Sally Mo at Sally Mo blah blah blah. So this is really cool. And then we're going to set it up so that this email is sent to email from inside and outside the organization, just in case there is some kind of external communication going on. We're going to make sure. It's the same reply, but we can give a different reply to people who are outside of organization. We can just, instead of saying, he's no longer employed, here we can just say, please direct any future correspondence to Sally Mo, because people outside, they don't need to know what's going on within the company, all right? Okay. Gonna set this up. Next. And then transfer ownership. All right, so for her, this is just going to come up as like a shared mailbox. I'm going to assign and convert. Okay, while that happens, it's going to take a bit because, he had a few things in here. It says we can convert the user to shared mailbox. That's fine. I don't have time to troubleshoot this here, but what does it say here? Type shared. He just was not able to convert his mailbox to shared. Oh, I know why. Because I've never actually logged in as Larry Bird anywhere. So it didn't actually create anything on the back end at all. There was no inbox that actually was created. There was nothing in it. Well, there might be something in it, but I've never logged in as Larry, and that's probably why this is happening. Anyways, normally this would just work. All right. So there, Larry should be deleted now. Let's do refresh here. Oh, Larry's still in here. Let's delete him. Wow. So the whole thing failed. That's good to know. Close. Now he's deleted. Wow. Okay. All right. Let's look at the deleted users, which is the last thing we have here, and we can restore him. Restore Larry. Select Larry, restore, and then we can reset his password. This is what this is. We're going to restore. Okay, that's his new password. All right, now let's go ahead and see if his licenses are still in there. So here's our Larry licenses and apps. And look, we have to now give him a license again because remember when we deleted him, his licenses were taken away. So we're going to give him a license again, save changes. So keep in mind every time you're restoring somebody to give him another license and make sure he's got mail set up. And all of this stuff, make sure everything is working for him. I would have him log in first. I mean, you don't know. Some people maybe leave company, come back within 30 days. They change their mind. Like, I don't like my new job. And they come back and they take him back, type of stuff. And that's how you do it. In the last video, we talked about users. And we talked about users a lot. We expanded on all of this stuff. And it's not as simple as just picking a user and resetting the password. There's a lot to it, like templates, adding multiple users, and all kinds of different stuff. And for that, of course, I'm going to add a link up here to come up so you can check that out. Now, as usual per my style of videos, I'm going to keep going down the list. So now, instead of users, we're going to go down the list. We're going to talk about teams. Now, when I talk when I was thinking about how to make this video, I wanted to make it in such a way where we can actually troubleshoot teams overall. There might be multiple videos on teams, just so you know, and for that you might want to subscribe. And just do me a favor, please in the comments below, let me know that you're present, that you're here, or just if you want to say hi. This is a really, really motivating thing for me, knowing that people are watching. And I do see some returning people that are still watching and doing this exact same thing that I'm talking about. And it's much appreciated, guys. I really love you for that. It's just a motivating thing for me. I can't even explain it. Thank you so much. All right, now let's talk about teams. Here's our teams, and yes, I've made videos on this in a basic type of level, on a basic type of level. We've created some teams and some groups and whatnot, but let's look at this from a point of view of somebody who's going to troubleshoot. Now, here is our teams tab, and we clicked on active teams and groups. And here we see under Microsoft 365 groups, we see 4 different groups listed. And if you watch the videos, you know that we've created these groups previously. And if you look under team status here, you've noticed that some of these, or I should say majority of these, have this little icon here. And if you hover over it, it says this group has Microsoft Teams connected. And the same goes for these other ones, except this one here. So why is that? Well, let's look at it as point of view, like I said, point of view of somebody who's going to administer this. So the first thing we're going to do is just going to click on all company and look at it. And you know, the first thing that comes up is general, but we're not concerned about general necessarily at this point because we're talking about settings. So if I go back here, it says here for these other ones, if I hover over the icon, it says this group has Microsoft Teams connected. Every time I hear a word connected, that means it's some kind of a setting, right? This is something we need to change in settings. So again, we're going to go back to this one that doesn't have this status. I'm going to click on it, and I'm not concerned about general, right? It's not there. Not members. This is something we can always add and or remove. We're going to look at settings. So if you look at settings here, we can see that we have general settings here, and it just says let people outside organization email this team, send copies of team emails, or don't show team email address in Outlook. And then we got privacy, it's either public, private, and then we got external file sharing settings on the right here, and nothing else. So sure enough, none of this stuff talks about teams. What's going on? Well, let's compare it to how it looks like for a group that has teams activated. So just kind of take a virtual mind visual snapshot of this, right? Just remember what's all in here. Just remember that. And now let's go and compare it to the next one that has it. So we're going to select this one, and then we're going to click settings. Aha! Did you notice? Now that you visually remember the other one, you can see that this one here stands out, right? It says, you know, it talks about teams. It says teams conversations, and it says here allow members to edit and to edit their sent messages, allow members to delete their sent messages. So there are some settings in Teams which tells me that this is integrated and this is connected. This group has Teams connected, and just like it says here, this group has Microsoft Teams connected, and this other one doesn't. So why is that? Now, the main reason for this one is because this one is a default group for everyone on the network, and that's fine. We're going to leave this as it is. We don't want to make changes to this. You can add teams to a group that doesn't have teams. So you can create a group that doesn't have teams connected to it at all. And we're going to demonstrate that. We're going to purposely create a group that's not going to have teams added to it. So let's go ahead and do that, so that way we can replicate this, because I don't want to make changes to this regular default group. We're going to create another one down here that's not going to have an icon like this. It's going to be a broken one. We're going to create a broken one on purpose. So we're going to select add group. Okay, so we're going to create a Microsoft 365 group, not because it's recommended, because it's simply an option to demonstrate on how we can add teams to it, how we can connect teams to it. Again, we're going to purposely make it so that it doesn't have Teams, but we're going to fix it later. Okay, this is one of those things you need to kind of think about in a way so you can troubleshoot this type of stuff as administrator. Okay, it's one thing to show how to create things, but can you troubleshoot it? That's another question. So we're going to make a Microsoft 365 group which creates teams, shared mailbox and this and that. So we're going to leave it at that. We're going to select next. And we're going to name this group, I don't know, we're going to call it shared group. We're just going to call it shared group. Why not? Because I can't think of another name. So shared group. And we're going to click next. And then we're going to assign it an owner. And sure, let's do that. We can pick any of these people. And one of the last people that I've made was Jasmine Long, so we're just gonna select her in here. You can of course search for it, it doesn't matter, but notice how on the right here for Jasmine Long it says Teams enabled. This is only specifically to her, right? So her license that she has Teams enabled. It doesn't mean it's going to work in this group, and you will see, just because she has a license doesn't mean she can access this group's Teams until we set it up. So she has Teams enabled to use, so she can use Teams. She can use Teams like for any other group, for any group that's created for her specifically, or not for her specifically, but herself specifically has a license to use Teams application, which is what I should say. So she can use Teams application and she has a license to do that. This icon, although it looks the same as the other one, doesn't mean that it's going to activate Teams on this group that we're creating. So we're just going to select her and make her an owner. And then later on, you can add members and this and that. And we're just going to skip over that to just keep it going. So we've selected our owner. We're going to click next. And then we can add members. And we're going to do that real quick here. We're going to add George Henry. And we're going to have to add Jasmine Long as well so she can view it. Just because you added her as a owner doesn't mean she can view it, right? She's the owner, meaning that she can make adjustments and this and that. She can make changes, update things, this and that, but doesn't mean that she'll be able necessarily to view it. So we're going to add her again just to make sure she's in there. And then we're going to add Bob in there too. Why not? So we're going to add 3 members in here. We're going to select next. And then we're going to create a group email address. Remember, this creates a shared mailbox every time you create a group. I should say Office 365 group specifically. It creates all of this for you, which is great. So you can do all of this for a new group all at once, which is great. So what did we call it? Share. What did we call it? Group type. I'm sorry, basics, shared group. We just call it shared group. So we're going to call it shared group. Okay. And then we're going to leave it the privacy as in public. That's fine. And here it is where we're going to purposely break it, where it says here, add Microsoft Teams to your group. We're going to unclick that. We're not going to create a Teams group because we want to recreate the situation that I've explained already. We're going to add it later. We're going to click next and we're going to select create group. Now the group is created. We're going to close this window and here is our group, and we can immediately see that Microsoft Teams is not connected. We can see that it's broken, and that's fine. We can add it in there. So let's go ahead and open it up. But you know what? Let's do this by, we can fix it through here, and that's fine. But let's see if we can fix it through Microsoft Teams, right? I mean, we're talking about Teams here. Sorry, I had to take a sip of water. So, we're talking about Microsoft Teams here. So let's see if we can just add it through Microsoft Teams. I mean, logically, you would think this. At least I would think. So I'm just going to go ahead and open Teams. see if we can add it in there. See what can we do, you know. So here we are in Teams Admin Center. We're going to expand teams here, and we're going to select Manage Teams. Well, what's going on here? You can see it's not in here. It's not added in here. Well, let's go ahead and see if we can add it manually. And I want to show you this specifically. And the reason for what I want to show you specifically is because everything in Microsoft Office 365 is key sensitive, and it will know that we've already created a group named share, what did we call it? Shared group. And then if we try to add Microsoft Teams in here manually, it's going to deny us. And I'll show you. And it's not even going to say it. And the reason is because shared group name is already reserved for this, just in case shared group wants to add Microsoft Teams or wants to connect Microsoft Teams. So it's already created, except you can't see it in here. I don't know if I want to say it's already created initially, but the name itself is already reserved, and I'll prove it to you right here. So if we're here in my Manage Teams, and shared group is not in here. It's not in here because we didn't add it. But if we click Add and just do it like this, we call it shared group. Exact same name how we have it over there. You know, the description, and then we tried to add it. Team owner, who did we say? Jasmine Long. We're going to remove Irvin. We're going to make it public, just like it is over there, and we're going to say apply. And it's going to fail, but you'll just say, we can't create this item. We can't create this item because this name is already reserved. It's already reserved. And I want you to understand this because this is how Office 365 works. Because it's for protection and for the connection of everything that's related to it. So if I was to just be able to create a shared group here and not have it associated with the other group here, Microsoft Office 365 group, and then create this Teams group with the same name, it's going to cause problems. And for those reasons, everything's case sensitive and all the names are reserved. As soon as you create a name, it's going to be reserved. So that way there's no conflict, there's no connection issues, none of that stuff. You already created it. All we have to do is just basically, or created the name, all we have to do is just activate Teams. And we can certainly do that. And you can see here, which is kind of misleading, it says we just can't create this item. It doesn't say this name is reserved or anything like that. So this is one of those things that it's not taught. This is not taught. Like nobody's teaching you that this error means this. All right. But if I was to even change this even a little bit, let's say I use small g, it's not going to work. So it's shared group with small g, and I click apply. It's still not gonna, it's going to reserve a variation of it, whether it's all caps, one cap, or whatever else. It's going to reserve it. And that's perfectly fine. It's not like you're going to have 1,000 groups in an organization, right? However, if I was to change this to shared group, I don't know, let's just say one, doesn't matter. It's going to work. So if I click apply, now it's going to create it, right? You can see that this proves the fact that the error is not very descriptive, or it's not descriptive at all. It just says failed, whatever. And I'm just waiting for this to finish so the way I can remove it, because I want to keep Office 365 clean in the sense where, since I have continuous videos, I'm going to have to remove it once it's created, so that way there's no confusion in future videos at all. I want to keep this, for you guys. I want to make sure that everything is in order because I plan to make more videos. And here it is. It created this other group, but this, all it is just a Teams group, right? So we're just going to remove it. And this may also show up in other places. So if we go back to the admin center and refresh it, there it is. Here's our shared group. But we've already deleted it. So if I were to try to delete it in here, it's just going to say, it's going to give me an error. See, delete group, there it is. It doesn't exist because we already deleted it. So we're going to refresh this, and this other group will disappear and sure it did. So shared group 1 is gone, but we still have shared group in here. And now we're going to go in and we're going to add teams to it, because remember we purposely broke it. Now we're going to add, and we're just going to do it through here, and we're going to go to settings, or actually we don't have to go to settings, we're going to actually go to general. It's right here. There is some things in Office 365 that don't make sense, but maybe this does. Maybe I'm the stupid one here. And when I think of adding things or connecting things, I think of settings, and this is where I went to look. And sure enough, when we looked at the settings, remember when we took that visual snapshot of this, it didn't have all that stuff on the bottom which we're going to activate. And you would think you would do it here, right? But no, it's under general now, so it's right here. Whatever. Anyways, just remember it's here. We're just gonna click add themes. I don't know why they did it like this, because maybe they just want to make sure people don't miss this. Maybe so it's like in your face. I don't know. Anyways, that's how you activate and that's how you fix this problem. And now if you go to settings, you can see that these options are now here. So go figure. Anyways, this is good to know that you can just add it later, and then the settings for it are whatever the little settings that they have for teams for this specific group are going to be in here. And here it is. You know, now we have the little icon. It's activated, it's assigned, and that's that. Okay. All right. So this is the setup here. This is what we're going to do. We're going to create a user that's going to be in charge of reviewing bad emails that come through the system, and we're going to be rerouting those bad emails so that the users don't even see them. So what do I mean by that? I mean those bad emails that are like viruses that install on your computer. So very bad stuff. We're going to make sure it's rerouted and sent to this new person that we're going to create, that's going to be in charge in reviewing these type of emails. And we're gonna put him in our IT department, and yeah, we're gonna put him in our IT department. I was gonna say we're gonna make him an Exchange admin, but we're not gonna do that because we are the Exchange admin. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a user, and we're gonna call him. We're gonna call her, I don't know, Samantha Rogers, and we're gonna S Rogers. So we're just gonna make a quick user in here, so that way we can let's say we hired Samantha Rogers to be our email reviewer slash person that's going to work in IT, maybe in desktop support, because we're going to forward all those bad emails to her so she can review it. And I'm going to go log in as her in Outlook. Okay, so here we are signed in as Samantha Rogers. So yeah, remember we're going to send emails to her. Any of the bad emails, we're going to route it to her so she can review. All right, let's go to our Exchange and create some rules, guys. We're going to block some emails. We're going to make sure the bad guys can't get it. So the way you do this, so this is how Exchange Admin Center looks like when you log into it initially. You want to go to mail flow, right? Because we're going to control the mail flowage. And we're going to set up some rules. So we're going to click on rules. All right. So while this populates, well, there it is. Sometimes it takes a little bit. We're going to create a new rule. So we're going to click on this little plus sign here under rules. So we're going to select create new rule. All right. We're going to call it blocking viruses. All right. So we're going to make sure that no executables can be sent to us from people from outside of organization. All right. So here's the first part of it. It says here, apply this rule if. So it's going to ask us, what the rule is asking us, when should I apply this rule? So it's looking for specific conditions of the email. All right. And remember we said it's going to be from outside organizations. So we're going to select that as the first condition. And we're going to just select on this, right? We're going to select on that. And we're going to say the sender is located. We're going to select that. Sender is located. And on the pop-up, we're going to say outside of organization. So this is what the rule that we are creating. Remember, you can make many different rules that will work along with this. This is just an example and only one of the rules. You know, we can make multiple ones. This is just the one for demonstration purposes, right? I would highly suggest you apply this rule to the inside organization as well, because we're going to tell it to target executables. Now, we need to add another rule here, but it's not popping up, and that's okay. We're going to make it pop up. It's just being very stubborn. So the reason it doesn't pop up for some reason is you have to click on here on more options, and then it adds a condition, right? So we're going to click on add condition, and then we're going to select one, and then we're going to say, remember we said attachment of a virus, so we're going to go down and select any attachment, and then we're going to go to the right very carefully because this thing is very sensitive, and we're going to say contains executable. So we're going to say has executable content right here. Okay, so we got two-way rule, right? So the sender is from the outside organization, and it has executable content. Very bad stuff. Well, you know, because chances are it's a virus, right? But we need to have it reviewed, and that's okay. We're going to have our new person that we hired review it. And then we're going to tell it, okay, well, this all applies, and then email is coming through, and then do what with it. So the rule needs to know, what do I do with this? And then we're going to select under here where it says do the following. So we're going to select one. We're going to say redirect message to these recipients, right? And this is just the way it's set up for our fictional situation, right? This could be set up any way that your organization wants. So it could be just deleted, it could be this and that, but I really want to make sure this is reviewed just in case it's something legit. There's a small chance that it might be legit. Remember, we hired Samantha Rogers, so we're going to select her, and we're just going to click OK. Now we have Samantha Rogers, and it's going to redirect all of these sketchy with attachment and executable messages to her for her to review. We can add an exception, but I don't want it to confuse anymore. But like I can add an exception here, for example, say unless it's from the inside organization, you know. But we're just demonstrating the use of rules. So we're just going to keep it at that. So again, to repeat, and I'm sorry for repeating myself, it's just that I feel like people learn better. The rule again is looking for senders that are located outside of organization and they're setting executables like programs or a virus. And then we have properties for this rule. And then it says audit this rule with severity level. So this is just to mark it for audit. We're going to select that as high because, you know, it's very, you know, severity level is high. It's dangerous. Okay. Choose a mode for this rule. Now we're just going to say enforce. We're going to enforce it rule. No matter what, we're going to enforce it no matter what happens with this. If somebody sends this type of email, we're going to enforce it and we're going to route it and send it to Samantha to review. We could select test with policy tips and this and that, but in this case, we're going to keep it simple. We're just going to enforce it, all right? Just to keep it on point. And then it says here, activate this rule on the following date. We're going to leave that as it is because I want this rule to just work all the time. I'm not going to mess with these dates or nothing like that. So don't mess with dates if you want it to stop, okay? And then in comments, I'm just going to say review for viruses. Okay. Okay. And that's that. So I'm going to save it. Click save on here. It's going to save this rule, and this rule hopefully should work. And we're going to test it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to send an email to just a random person in our organization. While that is saving, I'm going to go to our admin center. I'm just going to pick a random person. I'm going to say George Henry. So it's any person inside the organization, our organization. We're going to send them an email from outside organization, and we're going to send them an attachment. Here we are. We're going to send an email to George, and we're going to say free software. And then we're going to add an attachment from my computer. And we're going to attach this executable here. And then we're going to send it. Now, since this rule is working here, George will not receive any email. This will just be routed to Samantha Rogers. I'm sorry. So here's her email, and we're just gonna wait to see if anything happens, and it should happen like very soon here. There it is. So it took a few seconds, which is normal, and here it is. This email that was sent to George Henry, you can see right there, it says it was sent to George Henry, contained this executable, and it was sent from outside organization from this email. I'm going to blur it out because I sometimes use this email address, so I'm going to blur it out. Sorry about that. But it is from the outside organization. You can see that it's from Yahoo, yahoo.com. And that's how you set up this rule. Let's go back to it. Where is it? Where did we leave this? Here it is. Here's our rule. And Roger never received any email. And now our new employee, which is Samantha Rogers, can now review this and then make actions to it, this and that. And then we can also report this email to our, what's it called? Security and compliance. Oh, looks like security and compliance is now separate. Oh, no, it's not. Maybe it is. Okay. Compliance? Oh, wow. Looks like they've separated security and compliance. Look at that. I had no idea, guys. This used to be one thing. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was always one thing. Wow. Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's potentially a new, video. I wonder what they did with it. Did they make it so? What's going on? Look at this. Check out your new homes for managing security, compliance, and mail flow. What? I had no idea. Look at this. Oh, okay. So this is new. See, it's called security and compliance here. And this one is just compliance. All right, let's see what this is. We talked about security and compliance a little bit. Basically, a place where you report sketchy emails. So if a user gets a sketchy email, like we did here for Samantha, they can, this can be reported to security and compliance. And then that's when they review it. So Exchange here, look at this. So we worked on Mailflow, and Mailflow in Exchange has rules and all of this other stuff, while security and compliance only has message trace. Welcome to Office 365 interview questions and answers. These questions and answers come from Office 365 tutorials found on this channel.
How do you change user password?
You can change user's password from Admin Center or Azure Active Directory. So first way to change user's password is through Microsoft's Admin Center. Once there, select Users, select Active Users. You can search for users in the search box over here, or if you see them over here, you can simply select them. So in this case, we're going to click on Sally Mo, and then once that opens, you have an ability to select Reset Password under their name. If you select that, it gives you a few options, and this is where you do it in Microsoft Admin Center. Alternatively, in Azure Active Directory, once you have it open, select Users on the left. You can also search for the users in Active Directory, or you can simply select them. So we're going to select Sally Mo here again, and then from here we can reset the password by selecting the Reset Password above the user's name, and here we can also reset the password on the right.
Can you recover deleted files?
Yes, admins can do it using a OneDrive link or through SharePoint. For admins to assist user in recovering their deleted files, you can do it to Microsoft Admin Center. That's the first place. So if you go to Microsoft Admin Center, select users, select active users, search for the user or select them. In this case, we're going to keep using Sally Mo as an example. On the far right side or far right tab, select OneDrive. From here, we'll be able to create a link to gain access to their files. So if we select create link to files, it's going to create a link that we can select or copy paste into any browser. And then we're going to select that. We're going to open it up. And here what it looks like is the same thing as users OneDrive. So you're doing it on behalf of user. And then if they have any deleted files, there will be a recycle bin over here. Alternatively, you can restore users' files through SharePoint. However, I will explain this a little bit later in the video because there's another question that relates to that. So please keep watching.
Can users recover their own files?
Yes, through OneDrive Recycle Bin. We're going to keep using the same user as an example. So Sally Mo accidentally deletes her files. She can certainly recover them through the OneDrive. So here's her OneDrive, and if she goes to Recycle Bin, she can recover any of these files that she accidentally or intentionally deleted. If she accidentally empties the Recycle Bin, the files are not permanently gone. She can still recover them by going to the second stage Recycle Bin, which is here.
What happens to lost emails?
You can check status of sent or received emails through Exchange Admin Center and performing a message trace. So sometimes users report emails missing, whether they've sent an email and the recipient hasn't received it, or they have not received the email that customer was supposed to send it to them. So what happened to those? We can trace those by going to the Exchange Admin Center. On the left hand side, select Mail Flow and then select Message Trace. This will allow us to trace any messages that are being sent back or forth. To do that, select Start a Trace. We can select a sender, for example, Sally Mo. We're going to keep using her as an example. And then we're going to say recipients as in all to see if any, and then we're going to change the time range. We're going to leave it so we can see a instant access of the summary report. Select search, and here are the names that she sent. If we select one of them, we can see whether the email was received, processed, or delivered. If there is an error, it will show up similar to this where it says not delivered. This is an example of missing email.
What is the difference between Office 365 Group and distribution?
Office 365 Group creates group emails, shared workspace, files, and calendars. On the other hand, distribution list is just an email list. So if you go to Exchange Admin Center, under Recipients, select Groups. This will show you Microsoft 365 Groups by default. And to get an idea of what it does, if you were to create a new group, select Add Group, and then it will give you a description of what happens when you create Microsoft 365 Group. And then it tells you here, it says Group Email, Shared Workspace, Files, and Calendars. These are all things that are created when you create Microsoft 365 Group. Now, if you go to the distribution list, which is the next tab over, all this is just an email list. All the people that belong to this email will get emails. So instead of sending emails to each individual person, you just send an email to this distribution list, which will distribute emails to everybody that is a member of this distribution list, aka email list.
Where do you change user licenses?
You can change licenses through Admin Center or Azure Active Directory. You can change users' licenses through Microsoft Admin Center. If you select users, you can select active users. And again, you can search for user or simply select it. We're going to keep using Salimo as an example. We selected Salimo, and the third tab over is licenses and apps. Select that, and from here you can assign a different license if you'd like. Once you're done, select save. You can do the same thing in Azure Active Directory. If you go to users, find Sally, open it up, and then on the left side you can select licenses and then change licenses from here.
Can you customize user licenses?
Yes, you can customize licenses for each user. You can certainly customize any licenses. If you go to Microsoft Admin Center, select users, active users, select the user you want to make changes to. Third tab over, select licenses and apps. If you scroll down, you will see where it says apps. Expand that, and from here you can make changes, whether you want to add or remove certain aspect of that license. Click Save Changes once you're done. If you go to Active Directory, you can do the same thing. Here is the user, select licenses. You can already see which license is assigned. Select that, and then from here you can do the same thing. You can turn on and off certain parts of that license.
What is the difference between SharePoint and Teams?
From admin point of view, SharePoint controls group sites and files access, while Teams admin controls communication aspects of organization, i.e. from access to group chat to user device controls and settings. So specifically from point of view of an administrator, so users will not be able to see this. You're administrator, and this is what you would see. Here's SharePoint Admin Center. And here we can see sites. We can see active sites. We can control different aspects of it when it comes to activity, permissions, and policies, and we can change any of these things related to sites. Remember, whenever you create a SharePoint, you create a site that users can use to collaborate and do things that are team-based. Of course, there are policies. You can change sharing and access control as well. In Microsoft Teams Admin Center, you can control different communication aspects. For example, if you go to Teams, Manage Teams, you can see which group chat that they're using, or their channel, if you will, and you can create new ones, this and that. You can also change settings like devices, their control, their IP phones, and everything else that relates to communications.
Can you have multiple different admins in Office 365?
Yes, you can have multiple admins and can also have dedicated administration roles. It's a really good idea to have multiple administrators when it comes to Office 365, simply because there are a lot of things that are in there that need to be administered. You can make any user administrator if you really wanted to. This is also called roles. If you go to Microsoft Admin Center and find the user that you want to upgrade to administrator or change their role as it's known, once you have them selected and open, you can see under roles that you can manage roles. In this case, Salimo is an exchange administrator and billing administrator. We can add more roles to her or remove all of them together if we really wanted to, or specific ones. So in this case, let's remove exchange administrator and just make her Teams administrator, and then we're going to click Save Changes, and now she can be a Teams administrator. Very simple.
How would you add a shared mailbox?
Shared mailbox is created in Exchange admin by creating individual mailboxes or by creating an Office 365 group. Users can add the mailbox in Outlook by Add Shared Folder setting. Shared mailboxes are created inside of Exchange Admin Center. Once you are there, select Recipients, Mailboxes, and then add a shared mailbox. So select that. Once you create a shared mailbox, you can add members to it. These are all people who are allowed to use and access this mailbox. You can add users from here. You can select the ones that you see from here, or you can simply search for them and then add them. So for example, let's just add a couple of these users. And once this is created, there's also an alternate way to keep in mind that mailbox are already created, and that is through groups. So underneath the recipients, instead of selecting mailbox, select groups, and then if you create a Microsoft 365 group, it automatically creates a mailbox for that group. So keep that in mind. Now don't forget, users need to go to Outlook to add the shared mailbox, and that is done by adding a shared folder. This is how users can now access shared mailboxes.
What does error message "you're missing out" mean?
The error means that user does not have access or license to that specific part of Office 365. Here's an example of this error. You're missing out. Ask your admin to enable Microsoft Teams in this case, and it tells you right away that this person does not have access to Teams. So if we go back to the Microsoft Admin Center for this person and then go to Apps, extend this, make sure that Microsoft Teams is now selected. This grants access to this user, save changes, and if we go back and hit select refresh here, there we go. Now she has access to Teams. So anytime you see that message, that means that they don't have access to that specific part of Office 365.
What happens to reported email messages?
To report an email message, you would do so through Exchange Admin, after which it's sent to security and compliance for a review. So every time you report a message, which is done through Exchange Admin Center, if you go in here and, for example, do a message trace, we're going to start a quick message trace here, so that way we can report an email. Once we get an email that we can report, we simply select report message. This is then sent to research and compliance, and it takes us there right away where we can report the issue, for example, if it's phishing, malware, or spam. So this is where you would do it, and this is what happens to it. Afterwards, whoever is working security and compliance part of Office 365 will go through and review these reports.
Can you have multiple group owners?
Yes, you can have multiple group owners. This can be changed in Azure Active Directory or Exchange Admin Center. So this is an important question because yes, you can have multiple owners. This wasn't the case before from what I remember. I even have it in one of my videos where I couldn't do it. It wouldn't let me have more than one owner, but apparently you can do it now. So I'm not sure what changed, but the answer is yes, you can have multiple owners. For example, here we are in Exchange. If we go to groups, so these are Microsoft 365 groups, just for an example, and we select Finance Group, we can go in and go to Members here, and then view all and manage owners. We can see that Sally is the owner here, right? And then we can add pretty much anybody else we want. So let's pick Bob here. We're going to add, and now we have two owners. See, these are owners, and they're all underneath here. Same thing kind of happens in Teams, which again wasn't the case before. So the actual answer is yes, while again, I tried it before in my other videos and it wasn't working. So let's go to Teams policy here, or no matter of fact, actually, let's go to manage Teams. So we're going to change the team owner inside of Microsoft Teams Admin Center. And you can already see that I already have Bob already is applied on there since we made the change in the Admin Center. We can see that Bob is already an owner, but then we can go in here and automatically add, let's say, Larry here to be an owner as well. And you can see that it actually works. So the answer is yes.
What is rank in group policy?
If you have a new group policy and wish for it to overwrite other previous policy, you just need to rank the new policy with higher number. This is done in Teams Admin Center. So this question actually refers to something that's within Microsoft Teams Admin Center. If you go to Teams and then select Teams Policies, you can see that there are 3 different policies in here. Now, the next tab over next to it is Group Policy Assignment. This tab over here is basically shows you which group is assigned which group policy to it, and whichever takes the precedent, meaning that whoever has the higher rank will override any rules under the lower rank. So let's see what happens when we click Add Group. We're going to select which group we're going to apply a policy to. So we're going to apply it to, in this case, let's see what happens, actual finance group. So this is a finance group. We're going to apply a policy to it, and then we're going to rank it, meaning that if we select a, if you select here, you can see the description of it, but if we change this number to higher than other ranks, meaning other below policies, then this rank will overwrite any policies that are lower or underneath it. So we're going to select that policy and we're going to apply. Let's, for example, pick this one here. And this policy here selected, since it ranks higher, it will override any other policies that this group has applied to it. So we're going to click apply. So now we see that actual finance group is going to rank higher.
When managing devices, what settings can you control?
You can control anything from date time format to network settings. This is another question related to Microsoft Teams. In this case, it's talking about devices inside of Teams. So devices in Teams are basically phones, display bars, and different electronics. For example, if you go to IP phones, select all the way to the right, configuration profiles, and then select add, you can see different things that you can change when it comes to creating custom settings. And this is exactly what it looks like when it comes to a phone. You can change date, time format, display settings, if you will, and of course, network settings. Same goes for these other devices.
Which computer platforms are supported by Office 365?
Microsoft Windows OS, Android, Mac OS, and iOS.
Both the Admin Center and Azure AD can access users. What is the difference?
Admin Center allows for quick and basic user access control, while Azure Active Directory provides additional and more technical control of user profiles. I feel like the answer to this is self-explanatory, but I digress. Let's look how a user looks like inside of Admin Center. Once you have them selected, these are the options you have. You can change some account settings, you can change devices, licenses and apps, mail settings, and then OneDrive settings. Here is the same user in Active Directory. We can do changes to roles, administrative units, groups, applications, licenses, devices, authentication methods, sign-in logs, audit logs, few more other things that don't exist in Admin Center.
If Recycle Bin is not visible, is there another way to access it?
Yes, you can access it through SharePoint. Then select More Features, then select User Profile, then select Manage User Profiles, search for User, select Manage Personal Site, and then select Recycle Bin. So this used to be done in OneDrive Admin Center. This is no longer the case. Now it's done through SharePoint Admin Center, and for which you have to go down and select More Features. And then you will see on the right, it says User Profiles, select Open. And once this open, we're going to select Manage User Profiles. Then we're going to search for user. Use a drop down arrow here and then select Manage Personal Site. Now we can select a Recycle Bin, which is located right here. This gives us direct access to user profile, meaning OneDrive. So we are inside of users Recycle Bin. We can select any of these files and then select Restore, which is directly restored into their OneDrive.
Can you send emails from a shared mailbox?
Yes, however, user needs to be allowed to send as in Exchange Administrator. So yes, users can send from shared mailboxes. And this is done by composing a new message or creating a new message, if you will. You have to make sure that from tab is enabled. Select on from and then choose the shared mailbox you want to send from. However, we have to make sure that in Microsoft Exchange Admin Center, user is allowed to send from. So let's take a look at that. And here we are in Exchange Admin Center. We're going to select recipients, mailboxes. Check the mailbox that we've just selected to make sure that the user can send from. And this is done by selecting the mailbox and then under mailbox permissions here, select mailbox delegation, and then we can say send as, edit, and then we can see that Sally is indeed listed in there, including Mike and Bob. All of these people can send as and from that mailbox. If they're not in here, it's not going to work.
Can users become admins?
Yes, you can change any licenses or delegate team administration for their group. This is something we touched on earlier. Yes, users can become administrator. Let's pick a random one. Here in Microsoft Admin Center, we're going to select manage roles. In this example, Larry does not have any administrator access. If we select manage roles here, we can give him administrator access. So we're going to select admin. So instead of user, no admin, we're going to select admin center access. And then we can make him whatever we want. In this case, we're just going to make him a help desk admin. Save changes. And these are options of what kind of admins you can change them to. There are more, but this is an example of what you can see within Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you best of luck in your interviewing. If you need assistance with specific job roles like help desk, system administration, network administration, guess what, guys? I have videos for those too. I will put a link to the playlist on the top right hand corner if you want to check them out. And also, if you got a moment, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you got hired. How did your interview go? And if you got time, please click the like button. If you wish to support the channel, you can also join my channel, but none of that is necessary. I just want you guys to succeed in life. That makes me more happy than anything else. So again, I wish you best of luck and you have a wonderful day.